American detective, master of the quick draw, Western style. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Poor Imitation. Dean, come with me to the scene. After Lawrence asked Daisy for the address, he pulled Dean to the crime scene. He is a detective and has the qualifications. Strictly speaking, Lawrence's police rank is not lower than that of Deputy Captain Hunter, but there are no vacant positions and opportunities. The Karen Hotel is a large hotel located in the suburbs. It has 6 floors, a small park below, 7 or 8 swimming pools, and 2 golf courses. Because a murder occurred, the lobby manager of the hotel was guarding the door of the hotel directly. Seeing Dean and the other man with detective badges on them, he immediately came up to them. "Hello, 2 detectives, I am the lobby manager here, you can call me Harley. Are you the reporter?" Lawrence said in a serious tone. "Yes." The lobby manager nodded and said nervously, "But I was not the first person to discover the death. The first person to discover Ms. Lily's death was her husband. He was terrified. When our staff heard the noise, they rushed over. Some people said that this was very similar to the serial home invasion and murder cases in the news, so I helped to call the police." "Manager Harley, you mean, you went into the room?" Lawrence frowned. Harley nodded. "We didn't know what happened at first, we only heard the guests' screams, so..." "Forget it." Lawrence interrupted Harley's words. "Manager Harley, please gather the employees who entered the room at that time, and the victim's husband. You need to go to the detective station together to record a statement." "Okay." Harley nodded reluctantly. The crime scene is located in the last room on the 2nd floor of the hotel. While going upstairs, Dean noticed that there were almost no public cameras in this hotel, as if they were afraid that something that should not be filmed would be filmed. Considering the remote location here, he was thoughtful. At the end of the corridor on the 2nd floor, the cordon has been set up here, and 2 patrolmen who are close to it are standing guard literally. "Oh, it's worthy of being called the murder center." Lawrence whistled. "What murder center?" Dean turned his eyes away from the safe passage on the side of the corridor. Lawrence showed his name card to the 2 patrolmen, then took out gloves and foot covers from his pocket and said, "Rookie, have you heard of a proverb, 'Don't stay in the last room of the hotel'?" Dean immediately understood it after hearing this. Because the last room of the hotel is close to the exit, it is convenient for the murderer to come and go freely, and it is often the room with the most premeditated hotel murders. This room is like this. The room is a safe passage outside the door, and there are no cameras inside. Whether going upstairs to other floors or going downstairs to leave the hotel, it will not attract attention and will not leave any traces. No wonder it is called the murder center. "Okay, Lawrence, do you think this is a coincidence?" Dean already felt that something was wrong. "Although I have almost guessed what kind of bloody case this is, I still need to see the scene to know the details." Lawrence sighed and pushed open the door of the room first. The door was a little messy, with many footprints left, and it was completely destroyed. There were also traces of dragging. They asked the patrolman who came first. The 2 of them knew that it turned out that the husband of the deceased was too sad and fainted. The hotel waiter dragged him out and left traces. The scene was almost destroyed. Fortunately, the victim's surroundings remained the same. This is a young and beautiful lady, with her eyes closed, wearing a tattered open nightgown, lying on the bed in a big letter shape. In this posture, the deceased is almost naked, with shocking pinch marks under the neck, large fresh marks of abuse on the snow-white skin, bruises on the hands, and obvious lacerations on the lower body. Overall, it is indeed similar to the previous cases of rape and murder. However, the previous ones all happened in the homes of women living alone, but this one is a hotel. "Dean, what do you think?" Lawrence just glanced at the female corpse and then looked away. Dean said with certainty, "This is a very low-quality imitation crime." He pointed to the bruises on the body of the deceased. Although the previous murderer would knock the victim unconscious, the victim would definitely be awake during the torture process, because this would give the murderer enough pleasure to commit violence. The previous victims had hideous expressions due to the pain and fear they suffered during their lifetime, and even had incontinence. The woman in front of me had a very peaceful expression. It was as if the murderer had to kill the victim, but was reluctant to let her feel the pain. There is also a very critical point. When a person is in a tense state, The muscles of the whole body will subconsciously tense. The scars left in this situation are two different forms from complete relaxation. The condition of the deceased's lower body is also wrong. The wound is too small, more like an irregularly shaped wooden stick. The previous 3 cases were all symmetrical cylindrical objects similar to plastic air pumps, which have never changed. Lawrence, just investigate the victim's husband directly. I guess he hasn't even had time to deal with the tools of crime. They are either hidden in his car, or in some more hidden places like the ceiling or the hotel, such as the lake in front. Dean started talking non-stop. Lawrence, Ababa, I just asked you to express your opinion, not to solve the case directly. Dean saw Lawrence in a daze, so he patted him on the shoulder. Do you have anything else to add, Lawrence? Lawrence came back to his senses, the 2 pieces of flesh on his cheeks drooped listlessly. I think what you said is very good. He originally wanted to use this typical and lame case to train Dean, his apprentice. But the reality frustrated him. In addition to the breadth of knowledge, Dean's on-site investigation and criminal psychology analysis have improved rapidly, like a natural crime master. He can easily and accurately substitute into the criminal's psychology, and then unravel the mystery and find the key clues. Dean, you're lucky you're not a criminal, otherwise I feel you'd be even more difficult to deal with than the murderer of the burglary and rape case. Lawrence sighed resignedly. Dean smiled faintly. Lawrence, the person standing in front of you is Dean Lee, a 5-star good citizen of Los Angeles. You shouldn't doubt me. Lee? Is that your last name? Lawrence seemed to have discovered a new world. Dude, are you Chinese? Yes, Lee. This is one of the royal last names of that country in the East, with a very long history. Lawrence, I have royal blood. It can be passed down to the present. Who doesn't have a little blood of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors? Dean finished talking nonsense and walked out of the house. He was in a hurry to close the case and gain experience points. If this case is over and he can be promoted to the next level, it would be great. Silence. I finished all the instant noodles in the rental house. Chapter 27 Interrogation. The underground parking lot of the hotel. Dean and Lawrence, led by the hotel staff, came to the car of Lily's husband. Okay, men, thank you for leading the way, but you can leave now. Lawrence walked around the car and said to the hotel staff. The other party walked away very tactfully. Dean was a little curious. Lawrence, what's wrong? Rookie, we don't have a search warrant. Lawrence took out a glove from his pocket and explained, this is a very disgusting thing. After Lawrence's explanation, Dean understood. For the fairness of the law, evidence such as recordings can only be used as evidence if they are obtained reasonably and legally, otherwise they are invalid evidence. In fact, with the development of technology, many cases are not difficult to solve. However, it is easy to lock in suspects, but difficult to correct them. Many cases have fallen on evidence that effectively corrects suspects. This is a very helpless and disgusting thing. This is really annoying, Dean muttered, which will make it more difficult for him to gain experience. How, Dean, this is just one of the troubles. Recording a confession is also troublesome. Many criminals are lucky and have those damn lawyers around to give them advice. Once we make a mistake in a certain process, it may lead to the failure of the testimony in the end. Lawrence had obviously suffered a loss. The 2 pieces of flesh on his cheeks twitched and he looked unhappy. Suddenly, he stopped talking and pulled hard, and actually pulled the car door open. Haha, this idiot forgot to lock the car door. Dean, come quickly. Dean stepped forward and noticed that there was a piece of cloth stuck in the trunk. This should be the reason why the door was not locked. There is a lot of space in the car. Lawrence was rummaging in the front, and Dean directly opened the trunk and pulled out a bag from under the seat along the stuck cloth. This is a golf bag, which contains a complete set of clubs and tools. Under the handle, there is a name engraved, Wolf. This is the name of Lily's husband. Dean was wearing gloves, his eyes swept over the handle of the golf club, his eyes narrowed, and he quickly called Lawrence. Lawrence, come here, look at this handle. There were traces of dried liquid on the handle of the golf club. Wow, I'm sure this is the tool used to violate the victim's lower body. That idiot actually put it in the car. Lawrence's face was happy. This is strong evidence. I guess Wolf knows some of our case handling regulations and knows that we can't search his car without a search warrant, but he didn't expect to meet you, a guy who doesn't follow the rules. Dean laughed. Lawrence shrugged and stuffed the golf bag back in. Come on, man, You and I are the same people. When the forensic department comes, we can go back and question Wolf directly. Then how do you explain the club you found? Dean's crimes have always been simple and rough, unlike Lawrence, an old gangster who understands the process. He chose to ask questions without shame. It's very simple. Lawrence took out a cigarette and lit it. After taking a deep breath, he said lightly, "We were worried about Mr. Wolf's safety, so we checked his vehicle and found something abnormal with the golf bag." Put it another way, the result would be completely different. Dean said he had learned another trick. Sometimes, Lawrence has the potential to be a lawyer. Dean felt that he had chosen the wrong track. After the forensic department came, Lawrence greeted them, emphasized the matter of body fluids on the golf bag, and took Dean back to the detective bureau. It happened. Mr. Wolf had just finished recording the statement and was about to return to the hotel, but was blocked at the door by Lawrence's vehicle. Fortunately, Wolf was spared the trouble of traveling and was taken to the interrogation room again. "Hey, guys, I heard that you went to investigate the scene of the fourth case. How was it?" Seeing Dean and the others, Harry recovered his energy and came to greet them. Old Hunter asked him to come back to help. Lawrence pointed to the interrogation room, where Wolf was a little restless. "If everything goes well, we can close the case soon." "Is it related to the previous case?" Harry was full of envy, and he really wanted to help. "Of course not, it's just a poor imitation crime." "Okay, Harry, please bring Wolf's previous confession." After saying that, Lawrence looked at Dean. "I guess this is his first crime. This kind of criminal will be in a very unstable mental state for a period of time after committing a crime. He will feel uneasy, panic, guilty, and regretful. We just need to stimulate him a little, and he will confess." Dean nodded. His interrogation skill is L2, and he also has some experience in interrogation. "Wait for a moment." Harry gave Dean and Lawrence a copy of the confession that still smelled of ink. Lawrence glanced at it, threw it to Dean, and took him into the interrogation room. The two came to sit down opposite Wolf. "Hello, Mr. Wolf, I'm Detective Lawrence. I'm Detective Dean." These are the positions of the two. Wolf, who was sitting restlessly, finally found a way to vent. "Detective, I have already recorded my confession. I just lost the person I love the most. Why don't you go find the murderer and torture me, a poor man?" Lawrence squeezed his two pieces of flesh together and smiled kindly. "Mr. Wolf, I understand your mood now, but when we were cleaning up the scene, we found some situations that were inconsistent with your confession, so we want to understand more." Hearing that the confession was inconsistent, Wolf's pupils shrank, his body softened and leaned back in the chair. After a moment of silence, he said, "I am not in the mood now. In addition, if you continue to treat me like this, I require my lawyer to be present." Dean was shocked. Here it comes. The classic lawyer is present. American lawyers are very professional and ethical. No matter if you are a murderer with heinous crimes or a vicious criminal. As long as you pay, the lawyer will use all means to achieve the employer's goal. They are familiar with the police's case handling process, know the judge's bottom line, and are best at finding loopholes in the rules. For detectives, many lawyers are far more difficult to deal with than those criminals. Dean was very curious about how Lawrence would deal with it. This is all future case handling experience. Lawrence was not in a hurry. "Of course, Mr. Wolf, this is your right, but there is one thing I must tell you. In the face of evidence, lawyers are not omnipotent. Especially your wife's case involves the recent serial home invasion and stabbing murders, and the Los Angeles city government is facing a change of government in all aspects. Mr. Wolf, this case is not only our police who hope to solve it as soon as possible, but the entire Los Angeles city government also hopes so." Wolf is not a fool. His face turned pale, and he said with all his strength, "What do you mean?" Lawrence lay back, pressing the chair behind him to creak, and his expression was leisurely. "Mr. Wolf, don't be nervous. I just remind you. In the face of evidence, the only difference is the size of the crime. A murder case does not necessarily result in a death penalty. But the murderer of the serial home invasion and stabbing murder case, I can tell you for sure, is dead. So, are you sure you don't want to accept our kindness?" After a few words, the blood on Wolf's face faded and he was completely silent. Dean looked at Lawrence with admiration. Lawrence did not mention Wolf as the murderer of his wife, but every word revealed an undisguised threat. The key is that Wolf has no idea what evidence they have, and his mind is probably in a mess. He was silent for a long time. Wolf still did not speak. He still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Lawrence's face showed impatience. Mr. Wolf, I heard that you like playing golf very much? Hearing golf, Wolf trembled, and his psychological defense was completely defeated. I said, but I want a cigarette. Position, detective, chief of detectives, deputy captain, captain, deputy director, director, branch director, captain level, belongs to the management level. Police rank, 1 or 2, police officer, detective, superintendent, police inspector. This depends on the merits and years of service, and it is difficult to upgrade. The protagonist's current police rank is an ordinary police officer, but because he joined the murderer's department, his position is detective, which is higher than patrolman. It can be understood as a department blessing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. Is it illegal to hit a girl? Lawrence met Wolf's request. He gestured to the coated SLR glass of the interrogation room in a covert manner. The next moment, the camera in the interrogation room, which had been silent before, started flashing. That's right. Before this, the surveillance here was not turned on at all. Lawrence sat down again, with a serious expression. Mr. Wolf, you have the right to remain silent. If you don't remain silent, then everything you say can be used as evidence to accuse you in court. You have the right to ask a lawyer to consult you during the trial. If you can't afford a lawyer's fees, the court will provide you with a lawyer free of charge. Do you fully understand your above rights? Dean was a little distracted when he heard these words for the first time. This is the Miranda warning, which is a necessary process of interrogation and also guarantees the legality of the subsequent interrogation and confession. Dean never thought that he, who was once a criminal, would one day become a judge in another time and space and say these words to others with his companions. This feeling is wonderful and refreshing. In the smoke, Wolf lowered his head and said in a low voice, yes, I understand. No need for a lawyer. Let's start. What is your relationship with Ms. Lily? Wife. She is my wife and the woman I love most in my life. Where were you when Ms. Lily was victimized? After a moment of silence, Wolf relit a cigarette with trembling hands, took a deep puff, and then calmed down again. I was in the hotel room, the room where Lily was lost. I killed Lily. Do you admit that you killed Ms. Lily? Yes. Can you tell me the reason? Yes. Wolf's eyes lost focus. I met Lily 3 years ago. She was so young and energetic that she attracted me deeply, but I was nearly 50 years old. Lily did not dislike me. She believes that love has nothing to do with age. I was very touched, and our relationship got better and better until I proposed to her. The story is very bloody and realistic. The two are an old man and a young wife. Wolf loves his wife Lily very much, but Lily wants a divorce now. After consulting a lawyer, Wolf found out that not only would he be divided into half of his property, but he might also have to pay Lily more than 10 years of living expenses due to relevant laws until she found a job or remarried. This was a very desperate thing. He was calculated. Then, Wolf saw the recent hot serial home invasion, rape and murder cases on the internet. The reports on it had a description of the crime that seemed to be real, which made people feel very involved. So, he booked a hotel room on the pretext of enjoying a vacation for 2 people for the last time. Wolf also explained the details of the crime. After the forensic department sorted out the evidence and confirmed that the evidence and the confession were consistent, the detective department could file a murder lawsuit against Wolf. The interrogation was over. Wolf was taken away and detained. Dean, Lawrence and Harry huddled in the conference room and puffed smoke. Marriage is terrible. Harry was still frightened. I almost proposed to a girl last year. Now seeing Wolf's end, I am glad that I didn't act impulsively. Dean smiled and said nothing. The marriage law in the United States is not friendly to most men, but it is not that exaggerated, and many wealthy people will sign prenuptial agreements. Wolf was completely manipulated by Lily. Lawrence had no interest in participating in the topic. He sat alone in the corner, smoking heavily, with a tangled and worried face. Seeing this, Harry covered his forehead and said, "Sorry, Lawrence, I forgot that there is a poor guy like you who has been divorced once. I shouldn't have caused your sad past. Go away, don't bother me. Lawrence glared at Harry fiercely, pushed the door and left, disappearing in the office. Harry looked at Dean with a confused face. Is Lawrence angry? In his impression, Lawrence would not be so sensitive. Dean nodded. Yes, but it should have nothing to do with your teasing. Don't worry about it, Harry. How is your investigation over there? Speaking of the case. Harry beamed with joy. Someone has seen the short man and called anonymously, providing accurate information. Deputy Captain Hunter has taken Phoebe and the others to catch him. There should be a result tonight. Oh. Dean raised his eyebrows. Anonymous call? Interesting. That's good. If the short man is really the murderer, then another case can be closed. If the short man is just a smokescreen, then his guess is verified, and Laura's actions are very meaningful and necessary. In any case, this means that the serial burglary murder case will make a breakthrough. Back to the office. Lawrence has disappeared. There's good news from the forensic department. No mistake. The red substance in the victim's body last time has been determined to be a mixture of tomato juice and red pigment. This is not the key. The key is that among these substances, they found genetic material, that is, sperm. Wow, guys, we're in luck. The database has the information about the sperm owner. Daisy printed out a copy of the information from the computer and handed it to Dean and Harry. Lawrence had gone to nowhere and could not be reached by phone. The deputy captain and his men had not returned yet. Harry and Dean had to deal with this matter. The owner of the sperm is called Orrin. He is a former criminal who was imprisoned for a year for indecency. His current address is in the Eyes district. It's a nice place. My friends and I have been there. Daisy stroked the mask on her face while adding Orrin's information. Okay. Harry patted Dean on the side. Let's go, rookie. Okay, old bird. Dean was not polite and gave Harry a heavy response, which made Daisy laugh and shake off the mask on her face. Arrived at the Eyes district. According to the information, Dean and Harry came to the outside of a grocery store. Harry stopped Dean, who wanted to go in directly. Men, remember, many criminals are either very afraid of the police or very disgusted with them after entering the prison. If you don't want to lose your life for no reason, you have to be careful when you come into contact with them. After saying that, Harry tore open his coat, revealing the bulletproof vest inside, raised his eyebrows proudly at Dean, and walked in front. Dean touched the bulletproof vest under his coat, and the corners of his mouth turned up. This man is not bad. He did not refuse Harry's kindness, but just put his right hand on the holster. As long as there is something abnormal, Dean can draw his gun and empty the magazine in an instant, performing a wonderful American style. Many of the things sold in the grocery store are second-hand items collected from various channels, with favorable prices, and are very popular among ordinary people. However, the business here is very bad. The huge store is empty. Only on the counter, a thin-faced young man is lowering his head, holding a Playboy magazine in one hand and putting the other hand down, immersed in it. This person is the target of the two, Orrin. Harry took out his detective ID and stepped forward and said, "Hello, Orrin, LAPD." He only stated his identity as a Los Angeles police officer, but did not directly say that he was a detective from the Robbery and Homicide Division. Dean remembered this. This is a very practical skill. Because some criminals can guess what they are looking for by addressing them, and prepare psychological defense. Orrin did not even raise his head, but the hand covered by the counter accelerated his movements. "FK, stand down." Harry's nerves suddenly tense up, and he took out a pistol from his pocket and pointed it at Orrin, telling him not to move. Orrin's body shook twice, and a relieved expression appeared on his face. Then he looked at Harry, who looked nervous. "Hey, men, don't be nervous. I'm just beating Fergie. Come, don't tell me that beating Fergie in your own store is also a crime." As he said, he carefully brought up his sticky hand and a special glass bottle, and placed them in front of Dean and Harry to prove his innocence. He really beat Fergie, and even put all the essence of his descendants in it. "Harry," he looked at Dean awkwardly, "I just reacted quickly." Dean shrugged and smiled without saying anything. Speechless, more than 200 words were deleted. Chapter 29, Angry Monk. Harry felt embarrassed and said to Orrin in a bad tone, "Where were you on the nights of the 3rd, 18th, and 19th? "Sorry." Orrin pointed to his head and said, "I don't remember well." "Very good. Then please come back with us. We suspect you are involved in several murders." Harry took out a pair of handcuffs from his waist and threw them in front of Oren. Dean stood aside, observing and learning silently. In the 4th Squadron, everyone has his own way of handling cases. He needs to learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses and understand the scale. These things are not taught in school. When Oren saw the handcuffs, he panicked. Wait, I remember, I fainted on the 3rd and was in the hospital. I was discharged on the 5th, Maria Hospital, yes, that's the name. On the 18th. He hurriedly took out a booklet from under the Playboy magazine next to him with his clean hands, flipped it randomly to the interleaving, and found the record. On the 18th, I was detained for fighting. On the 19th, I was at home. There is a surveillance camera in the living room, which can prove what I said. Did you record all these things? Harry looked at the booklet. If he was not worried that there was something sticky on it, he would definitely grab it to see what was written on it. Oren raised the special glass bottle in his hand. No, 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 the booklet only records my record of selling this thing, but to be on the safe side, I recorded the transaction process en route. You sell the essence of your own descendants. Harry looked incredulous. Is this strange? A sample can be sold for $100 or $200 on the black market, and I sell more than a dozen every month. Oren was annoyed. Man, I am white. If I had not been educated, had poor qualifications, and was not good looking, I could have gone to a specialized institution and donated it for $1,000 or $2,000, or even more. There is such a good thing? Harry was tempted. His monthly salary, after tax, was only more than $6,000, which was not as high as the income from beating Fergie 6 or 7 times. Dean rolled his eyes. Harry, don't think about it. Those specialized institutions want this stuff to sell it to some rich women for breeding at a high price. You are not qualified. As for selling it online, look at what happened to Oren now. Harry glanced at Oren with a nervous expression and shrugged. Okay. In 7 or 8 years, Oren might be regarded as a suspect for selling his descendants and use that to boost performance. After a simple verification, Dean and the others left the grocery store. Oren did not have time to commit a crime. The murderer ordered his offspring essence online, and then placed the money and goods at the agreed location. The two had never even met. Harry also checked Oren's hospitalization record through the phone, and the police station also had the corresponding detention record, which basically ruled out Oren's suspicion. Back to the detective bureau. Old Hunter and his group have returned. But it seems that they are not in a good mood. Dean noticed that Lawrence also came back and was now sitting in his seat, turning his pen absent-mindedly, and it was obvious that he was worried. Guys, your expressions are not good. Harry attracted everyone's attention like a joke. Old Hunter stood up. Yes, it's really not good, Harry, we need the good news you brought back. Sorry, there is no good news. Harry spread his hands. Oren didn't have time to commit the crime. The key is that this guy sold more than a dozen offspring essences a month. The transaction was anonymous, and there were no cameras around. We don't know who the buyer is. FK, the murderer is playing tricks on us. Old Hunter sat down again in anger. Daisy brought 2 cups of coffee to Harry and Dean, and explained at the same time, the identity of the short man has been confirmed. He is a fraudster, not a murderer. Then why did he appear at the victim's place and give false clues? Harry asked curiously. Daisy shook her head. I don't know. When the deputy team went there, the other party was already dead, and the body was being placed in the forensic department for autopsy. Daisy, the clue of the short man, I remember it was reported by an anonymous phone call, right? Dean interrupted. He was sure that the anonymous call was provided by the real murderer. First give the detective bureau hope, then extinguish the hope. The murderer has been paying attention to the movements of the detective bureau and enjoying the pleasure of playing tricks on them. Yes. Daisy nodded, but it was a public telephone booth in Queen Street. There was no surveillance around, and the flow of people was not small. We couldn't find the person who reported it. 2 consecutive important discoveries were intentional by the murderer. All the clues were broken again. The only thing we can know now is that the murderer is becoming more rampant and crazy. He even worried that the detectives were too slow to find the clues he had left behind, and took the initiative to call and report the short man's hiding place. This was a very demoralizing thing. Of course, this did not include Dean. No mistakes in 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. The current situation just verified his guess. The murderer was confident that he would not be exposed, enjoying the pleasure of walking on a sharp knife, and his mentality became more and more perverted. He was no longer satisfied with ordinary crimes, and wanted to have a fight with the detective department. But the other party forgot that the more he did, the more mistakes he made. The murderer has exposed a fatal flaw. Now, he just had to wait for the results of Laura's investigation in the gym. In the evening, Captain Meng En returned to the office with a gloomy face and called everyone to a meeting. The serial home invasion and stabbing case has not yet been resolved. Obviously, the people above put a lot of pressure on him. Hunter, report the situation. Deputy Captain Hunter stood up. The forensic department found that there was genetic material in the red substance in the lower body of the third victim. Harry and his team found that the genetic material belonged to a person with a criminal record. The murderer bought the other party's sperm through an online transaction and deliberately left it in the victim's body. Meng En pulled his collar irritably. What about the suspect? Dead. We found him at an abandoned construction site through an anonymous tip call. The other party is a fraudster who appeared in Las Vegas before. I don't know how he ran to Los Angeles, but we can be sure that he has nothing to do with the case. When the suspect was found, there were no scars on his body. The specific cause of death has to wait for the results of the forensic department. Old Hunter sighed. I suspect he was threatened by the murderer and then appeared at the crime scene. In addition, the anonymous call may also be made by the murderer. He is playing a trick on us. So, there is no good news. Meng En took off his glasses and stood up to scan the crowd. For a moment, the atmosphere in the conference room became solemn. Daisy, a clerk at the side, didn't like this atmosphere. She twisted her body and said timidly, Captain, a wife-killing case happened in a hotel today. Detectives Lawrence and Dean solved the case in less than 3 hours. Bang! The conference table shook violently. Meng En retracted his fist, and veins on both sides of his forehead jumped. Is this good news? Can you tell me why this wife-killing case is so similar to the previous 3 cases? Tell me. Who leaked these details to the media? Tell me. The first case should be closed today. Chapter 30 Dominance. The 4th Squadron of the Robbery and Homicide Division was established half a year ago. This was the first time that everyone saw Captain Mun lose his temper. Old Hunter looked at everyone below with concern. This was a serious case of dereliction of duty. The leaker would be fired 100% and would have a very bad record. This was not a good thing. The 4th Squadron, including the 2 rookies Dean and Robert, had only 5 or 6 people on the front line. If one more was removed, the pressure on manpower would be great. Everyone in the audience had different expressions. Lawrence was worried and confused. Harry, who is always active, was daydreaming. The newcomer Robert was restless. Phoebe, who was next to Robert, lowered her head in an unusual way. Even a fool could guess who the leaker was with just a glance. Just when Mun focused his eyes on Phoebe, Dean pushed Lawrence, who wanted to stand up, down and stood up himself. Everyone heard the noise and looked at Dean. Mun frowned. Dean, don't tell me, it was you who leaked the secret. He is not blind. Of course it's not me. Dean said righteously, but it certainly can't be my colleagues, Captain. Besides us, there are also people from the forensic department who know the details of the case. Besides, the murderer knows those things better than us. Why not them? As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the conference room suddenly changed. Lawrence's face relaxed. Yes. Why not them? He quickly agreed. Captain, what Dean said makes sense. Wolf, who murdered his wife in the hotel, saw the detailed report on the internet. I suspect that these were all leaked intentionally by the murderer. The deputy captain also nodded and added, the previous reporting call was probably also made by the murderer on his own initiative, as if to tell us, look, you bunch of idiots, you have been fooled by me. Simple crime can no longer satisfy the murderer. So I think the detailed information of the case is likely to have been leaked by the murderer on his own initiative. There was a moment of silence. Meng En put his glasses back on and nodded. That makes sense. I will report my guess. He just needed a reasonable step to knock on the people below. As for the truth, Meng En didn't care. Okay, let's get back to the case. Meng En held up 3 fingers. Guys, 3 days, we still have 3 days. If there is no result by then, the case will be transferred to the 1st Squadron. As for us, we need to pray that the 1st Squadron can catch the murderer. Otherwise, the 4th Squadron will be the scapegoat thrown out to calm the public pressure. After speaking, Meng En turned and left the meeting room. Looking at Meng En's back as he pushed the door open and left, The atmosphere that had just eased became solemn again. Old Hunter clapped his hands and encouraged everyone. 3 days is enough. The murderer is so arrogant that he will definitely continue to attack. Do you have any good suggestions? Daisy raised her hand excitedly. The murderer will continue to attack, and he will definitely choose a target. I will continue to go to Sam's supermarket tonight. Okay, I'll let Robert protect you. Daisy glanced at Robert with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and nodded with satisfaction. Robert also spoke up. Deputy Captain, although the short suspect is dead, he would definitely not appear at the crime scene for no reason. We may be able to find information about the murderer through him. Yes, as long as the murderer contacts him, he will definitely leave clues. Phoebe, I need you to investigate all the suspect's communication information before his death, and urge the forensics department to release the autopsy results as soon as possible. Old Hunter looked at Lawrence. Lawrence, you and Dean performed well in the hotel wife murder case. Do you have any good ideas now? Lawrence waved his hand. I don't have any good ideas, but I feel that the murderer may be in real life. He has an inferiority complex, may have been emotionally hurt, knows some knowledge of pharmacy, and is clearly aware of our methods. If you have a suspect, you can consider it according to this psychological profiling. Oh man, you also know psychological testing. Harry looked at Lawrence with an exaggerated expression, which caused Daisy to laugh, breaking the originally depressing atmosphere in the meeting room. Phoebe, who had been silent, smiled and said, Harry, don't you know that Lawrence's ex-wife is a psychiatrist and a criminal psychology consultant for the Las Vegas Police Department? Harry opened his mouth wide. Find a psychiatrist as your wife, boy. You are very brave. If you don't want to eat the Texas Iron Fist, shut your mouth. Lawrence clenched his fist and it creaked, and Harry was so scared that he quickly made a zipper shape on his mouth. Dean then realized that Lawrence was a redneck and had an ex-wife who was a psychiatrist. No wonder he knows how to deduce criminal psychology. Hearing and seeing every day, feeling the VIP service that his ex-wife treated criminals and patients, how could he not understand? Old Hunter looked at the people who had regained their morale with satisfaction. He looked at Dean, who was sitting at the back. Dean, do you have any good suggestions and ideas? You just said it very well. Dean knocked on the table. Have you ever thought about one thing? What? The common characteristics of the victims. Dean stood up, walked to the position that originally belonged to Mon under Lawrence's surprised eyes, pulled over the drawing board, and wrote down the names of the first 3 victims on it. These 3 people, in addition to being tall and beautiful, are not in good financial conditions. According to the previous understanding of the people around them, the 3 victims have simple private lives, no chaotic social interactions, and they all have the habit of fitness and are very self-disciplined. Isn't this very normal? Self-discipline is just because they love life? Daisy interrupted Dean and pointed at herself. Do you think beautiful ladies must have chaotic private lives? Then why is it not a bargaining chip? Dean asked back. He looked at the men in the conference room. Guys, if a beautiful lady with a good figure, self-disciplined life, and a very good reputation among friends and colleagues suddenly had an intersection with you, would you be moved or even fall for her? Without waiting for everyone's answer, Dean wrote the name of the gym behind the 3 names and connected them with lines. Lawrence and I found that the victims had towels from this gym at home. Through investigation, we found that the 3 victims were members of this gym. The towel fibers found in their mouths were made of the same material as the towels issued by the gym. No mistake. The interesting thing is the geographical location. The distance between the 3 victims and the gym is more than 7 kilometers, and the cost is not low, which is a big burden for them. There are obviously gyms with better cost effectiveness around. Guess why they go there? To fish for rich men. Lawrence applied what he had learned and said what Dean had told him before. Self-disciplined men will not be too bad, and the high cost of the gym has raised a certain threshold, which actively helps the victims to select prey. Is there such a good place? Harry swallowed his saliva. Go to the gym to disguise yourself. Then the high-quality girls will not take the initiative to pounce on you. Robert, who was also a newcomer, was a little jealous. Dean, since you found these clues, why didn't you tell me before? Dean shook his finger. Each clue is a direction. Since everyone is focusing on Sam's supermarket, I'm not sure if there are any clues in the gym, so it's not good to tell you to distract your attention. Dean, do you mean you found new clues? Old Hunter's eyes flashed. Almost. Dean didn't finish his words. In that case, let Lawrence cooperate with you. If necessary, You can call us for help. Let's adjourn the meeting. Old Hunter gave Dean the power. After leaving the meeting room, Lawrence pulled Dean aside and said seriously, "Dean, I owe you a favor." Dean raised his eyebrows. "Because of Phoebe?" "You know." "Nonsense, everyone can see it." When Dean was investigating the residence of the third victim, he guessed that Phoebe stayed to secretly accept an interview. Purpose? Just look at Phoebe's desk, which is covered with big portraits of celebrities and some gossip rumors. This is a girl who yearns for gossip in the entertainment industry. Lawrence, anyway, thank you. Phoebe appeared silently behind the two of them. "What are you talking about?" Lawrence was startled. Dean stretched out his arms to hold the frightened Lawrence. "We are discussing, Phoebe, do you like the tough redneck?" Lawrence was embarrassed and became a penguin with his head down. Phoebe glanced at Lawrence in a tangled way, pretending not to hear Dean's words. "Thank you just now, Dean. I almost thought I was going to be fired." "Oh no." Dean looked at Lawrence pitifully and said, "Phoebe, you don't need to be so polite. We are family." "Yes, family." Phoebe nodded heavily, said no more, turned around and left. After winning people's hearts, Dean patted the autistic Lawrence. "Dude, don't think about Phoebe. You are not her type. Let's go. We are going to catch big fish." "You shouldn't talk nonsense," Lawrence complained. He felt that Dean had ruined his fantasy. Dean didn't want to tolerate him and threatened, "Lawrence, if you keep on dawdling, I'll hook up with Phoebe and let you watch us having fun every day." FK. Lawrence gave Dean a middle finger and chased after him. He didn't realize that he had swapped positions with Dean. Dean, the rookie, became the leader. This case is finished today. Chapter 31 Selection. Dean brought Lawrence to the Ross gym for the third time. In the elevator, Lawrence was a little excited. "Dean, do you suspect the murderer is here?" "Of course not." Dean took out his mobile phone and sent a text message to his mother Sheila before continuing. "Yesterday I asked Laura to take the portrait of the short suspect and ask all the staff here. The murderer must have known that our attention was focused on him. I don't think he would be stupid enough to show up here." "Wow man, you can actually let that woman help you do this kind of thing. How did you do it?" Lawrence's attention was diverted. He envied men who could pick up girls. Dean smiled faintly, "Because I have a good gun." While talking, the elevator door came to the top floor. Laura was already waiting outside the elevator door. As soon as they met, Laura hugged Dean and gave him a passionate kiss. Lawrence was blocked in the elevator. Looking at this heartbreaking scene, he covered his chest and coughed like a loser, indicating that there were still people here. Laura then let go of Dean's hand and chuckled, "Sorry, Dean, we've been apart for more than 12 hours. I'm so excited to see you again." "I understand you." Dean put his arm around Laura's waist and walked towards the office. "In fact, if it weren't for you beautiful ladies walking on the street without worries, I would rather stay by your side and protect you." "Dean, you're so great." "Really? My friends all say so. Unfortunately, for the safety of the people, I'm destined not to be alone with you." "It doesn't matter, you make me more fascinated." Lawrence watched Dean perfunctorily say some scumbag quotes, which made Laura's eyes water. While despising him in his heart, he had no doubt that if he wasn't here, this couple would definitely have a fight. Office. Laura took out a folder from the drawer and handed it to Dean. "Dean, this is the information you want. There are 13 people in total, including those who appeared in Ross's gym in the past 3 months and meet your requirements." "What is this?" Lawrence came up. Seeing this, Laura walked out of her office tactfully and even closed the door. Lawrence was a little jealous. "Dean, this is the most comfortable case handling process I have ever had." Dean smiled, opened the folder, and explained, "These are all public officials who frequent the Ross gym. You suspect that one of your own people committed a crime." Lawrence frowned. Once the news that Dean investigated his own people spread, whether it was true or not, his reputation would be ruined. "Almost." Dean nodded, and then Lawrence said, "So you know why I didn't say this in the meeting room. I only trust you in the 4th Squadron." Lawrence is not stupid, but very emotional, and he likes Dean's tricks. He said seriously, "I will keep it confidential. If it is really one of our own people who is suspected, I will prove that you discovered it by accident. Put it another way, everyone will have a different view." "Thank you. Come and help me take a look. Pick out the people who haven't been here in the past half-month first." Dean threw half of the information in his hand without raising his head. "There are a total of 13 people's information in the folder. 3 men and 10 women, belonging to various departments of the Detective Bureau, including other squadron members of the Robbery and Homicide Division. Why are they all women? Oh, there is also Poo-Poo from the Intelligence Division. I heard that she is very cold and does not like her colleagues around her at all. Lawrence exclaimed. He is an old hand who has been in the police force for more than 10 years and knows many colleagues. Dean smiled while flipping through the information in his hand and said, Lawrence, think about your salary. Do you think those knowledgeable women will be attracted by your salary of several $1,000s a month? Women are different. Many men look forward to legally assaulting police officers. Legal assaulting police officers. Oh, Dean, you really can. Lawrence showed a sly smile that all men understand. He wanted to say a few more words, but found that Dean's eyes were fixed on a piece of information. He leaned forward to take a look, and the cheeks wrapped in fat cracked directly, opening like a Big Mac. FK, is this Bill? Yes, that's him. Dean shrugged. Are you familiar with him? We have known each other for more than 5 years, and our relationship is okay. Lawrence retracted his surprised expression, but Bill should not be the murderer. I can't imagine a big 300-pound chubby man breaking into a house to commit a high-intensity crime. Bill was the fat man in the forensic department to help them identify the towel fibers before. At that time, the other party was sitting next to the bloody corpse, eating hamburgers, drinking tomato juice, and blackmailing Lawrence for a Big Mac meal. Dean was very impressed with him. But whether he is a suspect or not, it needs to be investigated to determine. Dean saw that Bill last came to the gym a month and a half ago, so he put his information aside separately. Seeing this, Lawrence hesitated, did not speak, and lowered his head to get busy. The reason why the two focused on the people who had not come in the past half-month was because the first home invasion rape and murder case occurred more than half a month ago. This kind of serial crime often originates from the outburst of some kind of accumulated emotions of the murderer, and the crime is committed under impulse. After calming down, the murderer becomes addicted to the kind of pleasure that he cannot find in his daily life, as if he has discovered a new world. In the end, he cannot control his desires at all and it is out of control. Therefore, even if the murderer is experienced, he will not deliberately disguise himself before the first crime. No mistakes, one post, one content, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one bar, one look. This is a trace that cannot be erased. The information prepared by Laura is very complete and considerate. It not only marks the time when these people come to the gym every time, but also marks the staff they have contacted. Dean and Lawrence quickly put the information of the 4 people in the first row. Lawrence, let's investigate these 4 people first. Dean took a sip of coffee, felt a little uncomfortable, and put down the cup again. How many do you know? 2. Tell me. Okay. Lawrence sighed, pointed to Bill's information and said, Bill joined the forensic department 5 years ago. He is a bit withdrawn, but he is not a bad person. As long as there is something delicious, he is happy to work overtime to help. As for hobbies, he should raise some strange pets. What pets? Dean asked. Venomous snakes, spiders, etc. So since I met Bill, I have never heard that he has dated the opposite sex. In fact, he doesn't have many friends. Dean looked at Bill's age in the information and listed him as the key person to investigate. What about the other one? This one, Hawkins from the branch. His family is a police family, and he has a wide network of contacts, but he is a very nice person, very generous. Except for being a little playboy, I have never heard of him being bad. Dean nodded and handed the information of the other 2 to Lawrence. Okay, I will investigate Bill and Hawkins, and you will investigate the other 2. Mars's funeral is about to be held. He is the host. Even if he doesn't consider those innocent victims, Dean must solve this case as soon as possible. This is what his predecessor owes Mars. Lawrence is very dissatisfied with Dean's arrangement. Hey, I should investigate Bill and Hawkins. I am familiar with them. That's why I asked you to investigate the other 2 colleagues. Your previous cognition will affect your judgment. Dean stretched out his palm. Let's go, Lawrence. After the case is solved, I will let Laura introduce you to a girlfriend so that you can forget Phoebe. It's a deal. Lawrence really stopped struggling. Back to the detective bureau. The 2 acted separately. Dean asked Harry for some equipment and went directly to the forensic department. Lawrence found Daisy and prepared to secretly get detailed information about the other 2. At the same time, Forensic Department. Bill put down his phone, came to a small dining table with an expressionless face, looked at the newly delivered corpse in front of him, opened his mouth wide, picked up the medium-rare steak on the table and ate it. Sorry. The update is late. The dog thief was injured some time ago and lost a lot of blood. As a result, due to the epidemic, the dog thief didn't eat much in the past 5 or 6 days, so his condition was not very good. Chapter 32 Locked. Arriving at the Forensic Science Department. After asking the guard, Dean took a deep breath, carried a Big Mac meal, and walked towards morgue number 3. The Los Angeles Forensic Science Department is an independent agency under the Detective Bureau, responsible for various material inspections, autopsies, and authoritative reports on clues. When detectives catch criminals and want to convict them, they often need the support of reports from the Forensic Science Department. This support is very flexible. If the relationship is good, it will be comfortable to solve the case. If the relationship is not good, it will be very uncomfortable. Dean's current behavior, whether right or wrong, will embarrass the boss of the Forensic Science Department if it is exposed. Unless necessary. Dean doesn't want this to happen. But Bill fits the murderer too well. Bill is a forensic doctor, and he is probably more professional than Dean, a former scavenger, in cleaning traces. He is also familiar with the human body and proficient in drugs, so he can clearly grasp the time when the victim is awake. Considering Bill's unique hobbies and oversized body, he is easily discriminated against and isolated, which fits the psychological profile of the murderer inferred by him and Lawrence. The key is that the time when Bill appeared and disappeared in the Ross gym was too coincidental. So many coincidences together. Even if Bill is a fat man of more than 300 pounds, with a conspicuous body and inconvenient movement, Dean still regards him as the first suspect. After all, who can be sure that there is only one murderer? It is undoubtedly asking for trouble to interrogate Bill seriously. So Dean plans to test the waters first, and see if he can alert the snake and trick Bill. Morgue number 3 is located on the 3rd floor underground. The corridor is brightly lit, and the walls around are wrapped in steel. The overall atmosphere looks very much like the evil laboratory in the movie. When Dean arrived, he saw through the glass of the corridor that Bill and a small man were concentrating on dissecting a female corpse with their backs to the corridor. He stood in front of the glass and looked at it carefully. The small man was thin, wearing an empty white coat and a mask. He stood in front of a car full of tools and looked like Bill's assistant. Next to the dissection table, there is a huge light beam similar to that in an operating room. There is also a video recording device on the side below the light beam. Bill and his assistant did not communicate throughout the whole process. But the two cooperated well. As soon as Bill raised his hand, the short assistant could put the tool Bill wanted in his hand. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Bill stopped, stayed in front of the camera for a moment, and walked to the cleaning room on the side. The short assistant stepped forward, picked up a camera, took pictures of the internal organs taken out of the female corpse one by one, and then put them back into the female corpse, picked up the needle and thread and sewed them up carefully. Dean then took the package in his hand, pushed open the door, and walked in. Hearing the movement, the short assistant stopped the needlework in his hand and looked up at the door. "Who are you?" "I'm Dean. I'm here to find Bill to fulfill my promise." Dean picked up the giant packaging bag in his hand. "Is Bill not here?" Hearing that he was looking for Bill, the short man pointed to the female corpse under him. "He just finished his work and went to take a shower. You wait for a while." After saying that, he lowered his head and got busy again. Dean put the things on the table and leaned over. "Is this a newly discovered murder case? Which squadron of the homicide division is responsible?" "Yes, an 18-year-old girl from the Bear Country was found dead on the roadside this morning. The second squadron is responsible. This is a troublesome job." The little guy was very talkative and did not hide the information he knew. Dean asked curiously, "Why is it troublesome?" The little guy tied a knot on the girl's white and tender abdomen neatly, stood up and said, "Because this is a prostitute. The prostitutes in the Bear Country here are basically controlled by the Bear Gang. They can only solve problems by themselves, but they will not cooperate with detectives." He put away the tools, looked at Dean carefully, and smiled. "Hello, my name is Holtz, Bill's assistant. You should be a rookie, right?" "Yes, I just joined the 4th Squadron for 2 days." Dean shrugged. "Then you are really unlucky." Holtz took off his gloves and mask, revealing a pretty face. "I heard that the 4th Squadron was overwhelmed by a case." Hearing this, Dean deliberately lowered his head to look at the naked female corpse in front of him, pretending to be disdainful. It is very troublesome, but we are about to lock the murderer. He is very cunning, but because he is too arrogant, he has exposed too much. While speaking, he kept paying attention to Holtz's expression from the corner of his eyes. Then congratulations. Holtz took out a large piece of white cloth from the cart and covered the female corpse. I will go to work first, looking forward to your good news. After speaking, he waved to Dean, pushed the cart, and walked into a small room. Normal Dean retracted his gaze and walked to the small table and sat down. On the table, in addition to the Big Mac meal he brought, there was also a half-eaten steak. The half-cooked beef and the overflowing blood stained the green vegetables, which made Dean couldn't help but think of the female corpse's internal organs he had just seen. Being able to eat this stuff in this environment, Dean could only say that the forensic doctor was not a normal person. Buzz, the sound of disinfectant blowing came from the shower room. With the opening of the iron door, Bill changed into a new set of clothes and returned to the morgue. No mistakes in the poem, post, content, 6-9, book, forum. Hello, Bill, I'm Dean, Lawrence's companion. I troubled you with the towel fiber identification last time. Dean stood up and greeted him warmly. Bill glanced at Dean indifferently, and saw the bag of the Big Mac meal on the table. A smile appeared on his fat face. I thought Lawrence would wait until the case was over before fulfilling his promise. Almost. We have grasped the general identity of the murderer. If nothing unexpected happens, the case will have a result in 1 or 2 days at most. Dean used the same words to test. How could he know? Bill showed a sarcastic look on his face. I think you should find a buyer in advance. What? Dean looked puzzled. Bill, I don't quite understand what you said. The chair creaked under the heavy load. Bill sat down with a great effort, opened the Big Mac meal, and after glancing around, he said dissatisfiedly, "Where's the tomato juice? Lawrence actually forgot that I love tomato juice the most. Sorry, I bought it. I will make it up to you next time I come, but you need to answer my questions first." Dean was sure at this moment that Bill did not have the conditions to break into the house and commit a crime. It was not easy for Bill to complete the work of the forensics department every day. It was impossible for him to have the spare energy to run around and commit crimes at night. It was also difficult to cover up the traces of his movements with his body size. Remember, otherwise I won't help you next time. Bill muttered a few words, and then explained, it's difficult to get a result in your case. I looked at the body of the suspect you sent before. The autopsy results showed that he died of cerebral congestion. The report will be sent to your squadron later, but I think he died of murder. Cerebral congestion and murder. Dean's mind flashed with a flash of inspiration. Bill, are you saying that the suspect was killed by resonance? The human body is far more fragile than imagined. If someone is proficient in mechanics, they can gently tap the head to cause some small blood vessels in the brain to break and cause cerebral hemorrhage. Bill looked at Dean in surprise. Few people know this. Dean had learned similar covert killing methods in his previous life, but of course he couldn't say that, so he had to say, I've seen similar crime reports. Bill nodded and continued, there are no obvious marks on the body. To be able to do this, the murderer is not only proficient in mechanics, but also very familiar with the structure of the human body. Generally, this method will be used with drugs to avoid errors. The body was found in time, but no traces of drugs were found inside, which shows that the murderer is also very proficient in pharmacy. Bill smiled. Dean, a high IQ criminal who leaves no traces and is proficient in mechanics, human anatomy, and pharmacy, even if he is caught, do you think he will leave evidence for you to convict? Hearing this, Dean sighed. Bill, whether we can convict or not, we must at least do it to justify our monthly salary. I won't bother you for now. After speaking, he stood up and prepared to leave. Walked to the door. Dean suddenly turned around and met Bill's eyes, which were staring at his back indifferently. This sudden action caught Bill off guard. Do you have anything else to say? Bill hesitated for a moment, and said a little unnaturally. Nothing, I just think being too fat is not good for the body. Dean looked into Bill's eyes and said to himself, Bill, I know a gym. Not only are the coaches very professional, but there are also many beauties. The key is that the beauties are passionate. If you need it. No. Hearing the passion, Bill seemed to think of some bad memories, and his eyes turned fierce. I don't need to work out, you can leave too. That's a pity. Dean whistled, ignoring the fierceness in Bill's eyes. pushed the door out, and disappeared from Bill's sight. Leaving the morgue, Dean called Lawrence immediately. "Lawrence, there is no need to investigate. I need you to help me get all the information about Bill, including the information of the people around him." On the other side, Bill returned to his indifferent look, took out his mobile phone from his pocket, and dialed out. Chapter 33 Kill Bill. "I'm under suspicion. This round of the game is over. No. I haven't had enough. Kaz, don't force me to help you log off. Got it, Butcher. It's a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to the next game. Beep beep beep." A busy tone came from the other end of the phone. Bill expressionlessly opened the flip cover of his phone, took out the SIM card inside, opened his mouth and swallowed it, chewing while muttering hatefully, "Dean." He hated this newcomer who suddenly interrupted his game. Suddenly. Click, the door of the morgue was opened again. Bill was startled and turned back suddenly. After seeing who was coming, his pupils shrank. "Dean. He's back again." Thinking of the soundproofing effect of the morgue, Bill suppressed the horror in his heart and said expressionlessly, "Anything else? I seem to hear someone talking about me." "Bill, it's you." Dean's voice was not finished. "FK, you." Bill roared, his body of more than 300 pounds, like a violent bear standing upright. His strong right hand actually grabbed the iron table weighing dozens of kilograms, like a discus, and threw it at Dean with a whistling sound. "Fuck." Dean's face changed, and he only had time to cross his hands in front of him. The next moment, a cold and huge force hit him. Dean's body of more than 180 kilograms flew into the air, rapped with the iron table, and hit the glass corridor of the morgue, and bounced back to the ground. "You shouldn't mess with me." Bill hit Dean with a blow, and his thin eyes wrapped in fat were bloodshot. He changed his usual slow and fat posture, knocked the morgue bed between the two of them away, and pounced on the dizzy Dean on the ground. His strength was terrifying. Even though Dean had extremely fast reactions and physical fitness far exceeded that of ordinary people, he still took a moment to regain control of his body. It was just a moment of slowness. Bill's body of more than 300 pounds slammed heavily on Dean's chest, locking his limbs and strangling him, and pulled violently. Crunch! Dean's limbs and joints made strange noises under the heavy load. He groaned, endured the tearing pain from his limbs, gritted his teeth and tried to break free from Bill's strangulation, but found that his limbs had been staggered and locked by Bill. The harder he tried, the stronger the tearing feeling in his body. At this moment, Bill was like a giant python of more than 300 pounds, entangled him tightly. No matter how strong he was, he lost the opportunity to resist. With his limbs locked, life and death were out of his control. Bill was too decisive. Who would have thought that a big fat man with a withdrawn personality and fat all over his body was actually so powerful and proficient in strangulation? With Bill's weight of more than 300 pounds, even if Dean was not attacked by Bill first, he would probably not be Bill's opponent in a bare-handed fight. Critical moment. Dean endured the severe pain and said with difficulty, "Are you crazy? You attacked me for no reason. Stop acting." Bill's eyes were bloodshot. "Tell me where the monitoring device is, otherwise, after I crush you to death, I will send your family down to accompany you." Dean must have hidden a monitoring device in secret, so he would come back. Although this kind of evidence can only be used as auxiliary evidence due to its legality, he just said the existence of Kaz himself. Once Kaz is arrested, he will definitely die. Fuck. Dean really realized Bill's horror at this moment. He actually noticed his hidden hands just because of his talk, and he killed him without any hesitation. Bill was also extremely horrified at this moment. How could this man's muscles and bones be so tough? If he strangled him with all his strength, even a well-trained strong man would definitely have his limbs broken, but Dean under him still had the strength to speak, which was really incredible. When the two were in a stalemate, Bill's assistant Holtz heard the movement and ran out of the inner room. Seeing the scene in front of him, Holtz's handsome face was full of astonishment. "Bill, Dean, are you crazy?" "No." Bill realized that he had delayed too long. A trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes, and he opened his mouth wide, ready to bite Dean's throat. Kill Dean and Holtz. No mistake, one post, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. He still has a chance to escape. Just when Bill looked up, Dean suddenly exerted force on his upper body, ignoring the severe pain in his hands, bit Bill's shoulder with all his strength, turned his head and tore it. Ah! Bill let out a miserable howl, and the force that strangled Dean's limbs also relaxed. Take advantage of his illness to kill him. Thinking of Bill's threat to himself, Dean, with blood all over his mouth, kicked his legs and forcibly pushed Bill, who weighed more than 300 pounds, to the side, and his almost unconscious right hand touched his waist. The American judiciary is extremely fucked up. He didn't want to face Bill's high IQ and high-force perverted revenge in a few years. Bill must die. The moment Bill was pushed away, he realized that something was wrong. He endured the pain of his flesh being torn apart, and his fat hands grabbed the iron table from before, raised it high, and was about to smash Dean to death. Bang! The gunfire flashed. The 11mm caliber bullet shot out. Bill's body trembled, and dark red blood slid down from his brow, turning the world in front of him into a blur and swaying, taking away all his strength. Boom! The raised iron table, along with Bill's fallen body, rolled to the side, awakening Holtz, who was stunned and frightened. Is this a dream? Holtz reached out his hand in a daze, touched the sticky substance that splashed on his face, brought it to his eyes, looked down, and saw a mixture of red and white, a fishy smell, and a unique warmth of the human body. Years of dissection experience told him, this is real, fresh brain matter that just splashed out of Bill's head. Ah! Holtz finally woke up, like a frightened rabbit, screaming at a very high decibel, and crawling out of the morgue. Pooh, pooh, pooh! Dean moved to the wall, leaned against the cold wall, spit out a few mouthfuls of blood, let go of the gun, took out the phone with difficulty, and dialed Lawrence's number with his flexible tongue. The joints of his hands and feet were swollen and bruised, and he really couldn't use any strength. Lawrence answered the phone quickly. He thought Dean was here to ask about the progress of his investigation. Dean, I'm still trying to get Bill's communication records, Lawrence. Dean panted, I'm in the third morgue of the forensic department. Help me call an ambulance, and you call the deputy team immediately to go to Bill's house to see if you can find any clues about a codenamed Katz. He and Bill are the murderers of the serial home invasion and stabbing murders. Dean. Don't waste time. Bill just finished talking to that Katz on the phone. They have another phone card and may communicate through the internet. Don't let him run away. Okay. Just then, there were dense footsteps outside the corridor. Dean seemed to have thought of something, and while Lawrence was still on the phone, he hurriedly shouted, Lawrence, ask Harry to come to me and retrieve the equipment. Almost as soon as Dean finished speaking. Stand down. Several guards rushed in with guns and pointed them at Dean, who was leaning against the wall. The protagonist asked Harry for the equipment in the last few paragraphs of Chapter 31. Chapter 34 Hospitalization. Get down, put your hands on your head. The guards saw the white, red, and sticky ground under their feet, and their gun-holding hands could not stop shaking, and they were very nervous. Dean was speechless. My shoulder is so swollen. Hold your sister's head. Get down, put your hands on your head. The guards repeated the warning again in an excited tone. Dean quickly said, Don't be nervous, guys. I am Detective Dean of the Robbery and Homicide Division, the 4th Squadron. The gun is on the ground, and the ID is in my chest pocket. He was afraid that if he spoke slowly, these pouncers would empty the magazine. It would be too fucking to die like this. The leading guard also noticed that Dean's pistol was thrown aside. He hurriedly stepped forward and kicked the pistol away, and then, regardless of Dean's swollen shoulders and leg joints, pressed his knees on Dean's upper body. Make sure Dean can't move. The leading guard put down the muzzle of the gun, took out the detective's ID from Dean's chest pocket, walked to the side, and pressed the pager on his shoulder. Call. Check the detective number. Okay, thank you. After confirming the identity, the lead guard threw the detective's card in front of Dean and said with a stern face, Detective Dean, can you explain why you killed forensic Dr. Bill? Dean was in the forensic department and shot a forensic doctor. This means they are derelict in their duty. Dean shrugged his swollen shoulders. Man, there are surveillance cameras here. Bill suddenly attacked me and wanted to kill me. I shot him to protect myself. This is the territory of the forensic department. He is not able to move around easily now. Harry hasn't come yet. Dean is not stupid enough to say directly that Bill is the murderer, let alone expose the surveillance equipment he installed in secret. The lead guard wanted to ask something else. Dean, are you okay? Harry's voice came before he arrived. The lead guard obviously knew Harry as well. He walked to the front door and stopped Harry, who wanted to come in. Harry, a murder has occurred here. You can't come in now before the evidence is collected. Come, Hall, we are all family. Harry smiled playfully, and took advantage of Hall's inattention, and rushed into the number 3 morgue. Harry was present. These forensic guards were much more polite to Dean. After checking the surveillance, it was confirmed that Bill took the initiative to attack and wanted to kill Dean, so Dean shot back. Even so, on the way to the hospital, the forensic department still sent 2 guards to guard Dean. Meng En, the captain of the 4th Squadron, also received a cordial greeting from the head of the forensic department. This matter involved an internal crime. It will not be over for a while. Harry took the miniature recording and adhesive headphones that Dean hid under the iron table and returned to the 4th Squadron alone, ready to collect evidence. Hospital. Dean looked at the white ceiling above his head, his mind empty. After the doctor's examination, his hands and feet were severely bruised and bloodied, and the surrounding muscles were slightly torn. Under normal circumstances, he would not be able to move for at least half a month. Of course, he has a good physique, so he should recover faster. I hope these injuries will not affect my attendance at Mar's funeral. Dean twisted his body uncomfortably. Although he had dealt with Bill, he was still a little depressed. It was a sure thing. But he ended up in the hospital, and was almost beaten to death by Bill, making him so embarrassed. Bill's sudden outburst and strangulation technique to restrain Dean were only part of the reason. The key is that Dean has brute force and reaction speed, but he is not good at close combat in his past and present lives. Before his physique formed a crushing force, this was a shortcoming. Thinking. Dong dong dong, there was a knock on the door outside. Captain Meng En walked in with Harry holding a bouquet of flowers. Man, this is the first time I give flowers to a man. You are so lucky. Harry put the bouquet aside and winked at Dean. How are the nurses here? Dean ignored Harry, who was thinking about women, and looked at Mon. Captain, what about the forensic department? Dean, don't worry. Mon spoke softly. The evidence you provided is very important to our case. As for the killing of Bill, it is no longer important. The forensic department not only dares not blame you, but also has to ask us for help to deal with the Internal Affairs Investigation Department. Internal Affairs Investigation Department? Dean asked curiously. There is no mistake in the poem, the content. If there are, black, police, bribery, public, employee crimes, complaints from the public, etc., the Internal Affairs Investigation Department can intervene and investigate. It is a rope hanging around the necks of various departments. It has considerable power, which makes various departments stay away from it. Bill is a senior forensic doctor, but he is the mastermind of a serial home invasion and stabbing case. The Internal Affairs Investigation Department will definitely intervene and inquire. The serial home invasion and stabbing case has attracted a lot of attention. Now it is close to the city government's term change. Those congressmen, in order to increase their support rate, will take the head of the forensic department as a scapegoat to calm public opinion. It is really hard to say. That's why Mon En is so nice to Dean now. He is a great contributor. Dean, you should take good care of your injuries in the hospital. I believe that when you recover, the case will be closed. When Mon En left, he helped him press the pillow very kindly. His attitude was completely different from the first time they talked. After the two left, Dean called Mass's sister Neil. Mass's funeral is in 3 days. He is in a good condition now. He can attend Mass's funeral, but it is inconvenient for him to preside over the funeral. This is also a helpless move. Neil did not blame him. She said that a special pastor would be invited to take charge of the funeral. She also told him to take good care of his injuries. If it is really inconvenient, he can go to Mass's cemetery to say goodbye after his injuries are healed. After hanging up Neil's phone, Dean thought about it and did not call his mother Sheila to tell her about his injury. Last time he went back, he did not say that he was going to move back. His mother Sheila also knew that he was busy with a case recently, so she thought he was still living in the rental house and did not suspect it. After finishing these trivial matters, Dean was bored and dazed, waiting for good news from Lawrence. This case is already very clear. Bill is the planner, and the other unknown Kaz is the executor. The two of them treated the killing as a game. Now Bill was shot in the head by him and no longer a threat. As long as there are clues left in Bill's house, Kaz probably can't escape. The only thing that made Dean a little uneasy was the conversation between the two. Bill, codenamed Butcher. The first words he said to Kaz were, "This round of the game is over." This is not a good sign. The next day, early in the morning, Dean was still sleeping soundly. Lawrence did not bring good news, but came to the ward with a stranger and woke him up. Good morning. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Criminal Game Organization. Lawrence, you came here so early. Did you bring me good news? Dean sat up with pain. Lawrence looked guilty. Men, we have locked down Kaz's true identity, but in terms of credit. Sorry, Detective Lawrence, I have limited time. Can you go out now? The man behind Lawrence interrupted Lawrence. FK, you. Lawrence was obviously unhappy with the other party. He gave the other party a middle finger and said to Dean, "Man, call me if you need anything, I'll be outside the door." After that, he walked out of the room with a depressed face. This also gave Dean a signal. This sultry man wearing sunglasses and a suit early in the morning belongs to a department with a higher level than the robbery and homicide division, otherwise Lawrence's temper would not be so easy to talk to. The man in sunglasses waited until Lawrence closed the door before walking to the bedside and looking down at Dean on the bed. Hello, Detective Dean, my name is Cheston, an FBI agent. Is it convenient to talk? Not convenient. Dean's injured right hand, imitating Lawrence, also gave him a stubborn middle finger. Cheston, Detective Dean, I have no ill intentions. My partner doesn't like you, although I don't know the reason, but Lawrence is a person who clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment, which means that I should not like you either. Dean said lightly. Combined with what Lawrence didn't finish, it's easy to guess that the FBI is here to grab the credit. This is related to his own experience points. What if the experience points for solving a case are allocated according to work distribution or departmental reasons? Wouldn't it be a huge loss? It's related to personal interests. Dean naturally won't give Cheston a good face in front of him. Anyway, the FBI can't affect him. To put it bluntly, within the jurisdiction of the 4th Squadron, he can even find trouble, then take a gun and shoot at the FBI people and send them in. This is the benefit of wearing a layer of skin. Seeing Dean's reluctance to cooperate, Cheston took off his sunglasses helplessly, sat down, looked Dean straight in the eye and said, "Well, because we intervened, we will share some of your credit, so your companions are very unhappy with us. But we are not enemies. In fact, if it weren't for our computer experts, that Kaz would have run away. Now his identity has been exposed and he's on the wanted list. This is a win-win situation for cooperation. Then why did you come to me?" Dean shook his limbs. "I am unable to move now, and I can't help you. 2 things. Cheston stretched out 2 fingers. "The first thing is, we hope you can tell me the whole process of discovering Bill's identity in detail, and the second thing is that we value your talent and want to formally invite you to join the FBI." Join the FBI. Dean became interested. What benefits will I get from joining? The full name of FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States, which is the main investigative agency of the United States Department of Justice. Its duty is to investigate specific crimes in the United States, including but not limited to major crimes, interstate crimes, and serial crimes. It also has a special intelligence department and training institutions. Its authority is large and vague, and it can mobilize a wide range of resources, so it is much freer to handle cases. Seeing Dean's interest, Cheston became arrogant. "This is just our initial intention. You need to take our assessment. After passing it, we will inform you of your rights and obligations. Let's talk about a serial home invasion murder case first. This is also part of showing your value. After all, you are only a 3rd-generation immigrant and have some Chinese ancestry, which makes us doubt your ability and loyalty to America." Dean was stunned, and a funny look appeared on his face. "Agent Cheston, now you are begging me, not me begging you, and you are discriminating against me? With this attitude, you can get out." Huh? Cheston thought he heard it wrong. Get out. Dean glared at Cheston and closed his eyes. If he hadn't been injured now, just based on Cheston's discrimination in his words, he was going to let him go sideways. Seeing Dean closing his eyes and ignoring him, Cheston's face was throbbing with veins, his fists clenched, and he seemed to think of something and let out more breath of anger. "Captain Menyen, let you cooperate with us. Lawrence, man, can you help me get this screaming little white pig out?" Dean directly called Lawrence, who was guarding outside the door. Bang! Lawrence pushed the door open and didn't give Cheston a chance to talk nonsense. He grabbed his suit and tie, dragged him out of the ward. "FK, I'm the FBI!" Cheston screams, and the voices of medical staff trying to persuade him to stop fighting were heard outside the room. A moment later, Lawrence returned to the room with a look of relief. "Wow, Dean, it was so cool to beat up this arrogant guy. You really should get involved." "Haha, did you let him taste your Texas Iron Fist?" Dean was very satisfied that Lawrence did not hesitate to vent his anger. "This is a trustworthy guy." Lawrence touched his right hand with some aftertaste. "Yes, it also came with a few Texas big cunts. I think he should be impressed by this." "Okay, Lawrence, why did the FBI suddenly find me?" Dean knew that this matter was not over, so he asked quickly. Lawrence sighed. "It seems to involve a player organization spread all over the United States. Only Captain Ma knows about this matter. In fact, the FBI was also called by him. No mistake, one song, one post, one content, 1-6, one book, one bar. Player organization." Dean remembered the game that Bill mentioned on the phone at that time. Lawrence nodded. "I don't know much. I only know that this player organization communicates with each other through the dark web channels, has a strict organizational structure, and is a criminal organization that has been active for many years." As he spoke, the phone under Dean's pillow rang. The call was from an unfamiliar number. Lawrence helped to press the answer button and put the external speaker on. It turned out to be Captain Mon. "Dean, I'm sorry to disturb you from recuperating now, but this matter is related to the safety of you and your family. If possible, I hope you can cooperate with the FBI agent's inquiry." "Okay, Captain." Lawrence had already helped him vent his anger, and Dean did not continue to resist. After a pause on the other end of the phone, another hoarse voice came on. "Hello, Detective Dean, I am FBI Agent Anthony. I'm sorry that my colleague disturbed your rest." Anthony was much more polite than Cheston before. Dean likes polite guys, but he doesn't want to offend the FBI and cause trouble for himself, so he said, "Actually, I don't hate the FBI, but your guys seem to discriminate against me because I'm Asian. Some old white people like to pay attention to blood pedigree. But these people still occupy most of the top leaders in this federal country. I'll let Cheston apologize to you, Detective Dean. Can we talk about the case now?" Anthony's hoarse voice was full of kindness. "Okay, but I want to know the situation of the organization that Bill and that Kaz belong to." Dean's eyes flashed coldly. "Treat crime as a game. Since this kind of organization has been offended unintentionally, it's useless to escape. In this case, Dean is ready to take the initiative to participate and kill them all. There's still one chapter around 11:30. Brothers. The site that received the first round of recommendations has sent a short message. This book is originally a niche, and I don't have a reader base, but the work is my baby, and I always want more people to know it. Please read it. Chapter 36, Lucifer Gaming Organization, New Discovery of the Panel. Anthony was a little hesitant when he heard Dean's request. "Detective Dean, I can agree to your request, but you need to sign a confidentiality agreement." "Okay, I'll wait for you at the hospital." Dean agreed. He hung up the phone. Dean looked at Lawrence. "Man, you have been a policeman for more than 10 years, and you have an ex-wife who has close ties with the police. Haven't you heard anything about this gaming organization?" Lawrence rolled his eyes. "The biggest trouble I encountered as a policeman was to shoot a group of idiots who were high. I didn't have such good luck as you to encounter an incident where the FBI needed to sign a confidentiality agreement as soon as I arrived. It turned out that in addition to some confidential information, that is, incidents that would cause panic to the public, organizations like the FBI would add the incident to the confidentiality category. This means that the gaming organization is a big trouble." "Things are getting interesting." Dean listened to Lawrence's explanation. Although he felt that he had another layer of trouble, his mentality was no longer as passive as before in Las Vegas. Only after solidifying through the abyss can you know the horror and trouble hidden in the shadows of darkness. In essence, he is a person who is afraid of trouble. However, now is a little different from before. When solving a case can gain experience points and improve oneself. Dean's mentality began to change. Think positively. This unknown criminal organization is trouble, but also a huge experience copy. What's more, this time the FBI is in the front. He is not the main force. Lawrence originally wanted to accompany Dean to wait for the FBI, but Dean was thinking about the experience points of the serial home invasion and rape and murder case, so he urged him to catch the escaped Kaz. Not long after he left, Anthony and Captain Moon also drove to the hospital. When the two pushed the door in, Dean was squinting his eyes, enjoying the enthusiastic nurse wiping his body. This was originally the job of a nurse. But it is difficult for the young American nurse to remain reserved when facing a young detective with good looks and figure. Oh no, it seems we are not here at the right time. A strange old man raised his eyebrows at Dean. You look more handsome than in the photo. I hope I didn't disturb your happy time in the ward. Manan, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, also adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and smiled as he watched the nurse hurried away. It's really not the right time. Dean sighed, covered his raised gun, and looked at the old man, Agent Anthony. Yes. Anthony was about 50 years old, with an ordinary appearance, except for a pair of slightly sunken eyes, which showed an unconcealable sharpness. Dean noticed a brown-black scar on Anthony's throat through the cover of his tie. This should be the main reason for Anthony's hoarse voice. In general, Anthony gave Dean a good first impression, at least much better than Cheston, who still had a childish face and could not recognize himself. Dean was sizing him up. Anthony had also observed Dean. Dean's first impression of him was dangerous. The moment he entered the door, he had a sixth sense of being locked. Dean's eyes, like a knife, quickly scanned the places where he might hide weapons. This is a trait that only a few people living in the dark have, always ready to kill, always ready to be killed. Anthony kept this in mind and quietly took out a piece of paper that still smelled of ink. Detective Dean, we are short on time. Sign this confidentiality agreement and I will tell you about the Lucifer Gaming Organization. Dean was only injured in the joints of his limbs, but it did not affect the simple act of signing. Seeing Dean's signature, Anthony added another point in his mind. The handwriting habits have also changed greatly from the information filled out in the police academy. Even if the hand is injured, the written letters will become ugly, but the writing habits will not change. This is a very abnormal thing. Dean did not realize that Anthony in front of him had noticed the details of him that ordinary people would not notice, but he felt that the occasional glances from the other party over him made him a little uncomfortable. He frowned and reminded, Agent Anthony, the confidentiality agreement has been signed. Okay, Detective Dean, from now on, our conversation will fall under the scope of the confidentiality agreement. Once it is leaked to a third party, you will bear the corresponding consequences. Anthony put away the agreement and declared with a serious expression. After seeing Dean nod, he continued, the origin of the Lucifer Gaming Organization is related to the formation of the dark web. At the beginning, the name of this organization was Forbidden Fruit, and it was just a small website that sold exciting videos. They would collect some bloody, pornographic, and violent videos and sell them to people in need. These videos are both true and false. But because of curiosity, there have always been many people willing to pay. Until 1989, the successor Lucifer appeared. Speaking of Lucifer, Anthony took a deep breath, and there were many more wrinkles on his old face. This is a very cunning and extreme person. He believes that people are born with sin, and only the warning of death can purify the filth in people's hearts, so he proposed the purification game. He first proposed the concept of purification games directly on the exclusive website of the dark web. First let those tourists choose suitable purification objects, and then let those who want to participate in person take a code name, as an apostle player, to perform purification in reality. This kind of direct participation in the excitement has made many guys who are sinking into darkness and are not satisfied with the stimulation of superficial videos directly become believers of Lucifer. They will give criminal suggestions in the exclusive forum. Finally, Lucifer will select the apostles and the objects of purification, and then push the entire purification process to all members. Dean interrupted Anthony, didn't you infiltrate it? The dark web is a mysterious place for outsiders. No mistakes, just go to 1619, read the book, and take a look. But for Dean, a former scavenger, it is no different from ordinary surfing on the internet, except that most of the content in it involves crimes. It is a place where filth and dirt are hidden under the glamorous world, hiding all the negativity and darkness of mankind. I tried it, but it didn't work. Anthony spread his hands. In the Lucifer Game Organization, players are divided into 4 levels: elders, apostles, members, and tourists. Each level has its own communication channel. They choose the objects of purification randomly. It may be recommended by members or tourists. Everyone will know everything only when the purification is completed. The identity of the apostle responsible for purification is uncertain each time. It may be a tourist or member who wants to join, or a criminal in reality who exposed his identity on the dark web and was threatened in the end. What's more troublesome is that there are many professional guys in reality who will give advice to crimes. They will even give advice and rewards to those apostle players because they are satisfied with a certain purification, so that they can receive special training. At the same time, each level of the Lucifer game organization also communicates with each other through code names, uses virtual currency for fund settlement, and has a special supply channel for exclusive anonymous mobile phone cards. The big fish we have caught now can only stop at the apostle level at most. As for the elders and the top Lucifer, we know nothing except their code names. We only know that the elders are selected from reality and never personally participate in the purification ceremony. They are only responsible for remote guidance of the purification game. Dean was speechless after listening to Anthony's introduction. The Lucifer game organization was founded in 1989, and now it is 2000, which means that for so many years, the FBI department responsible for this criminal organization has been hanging around outside the door and can't even enter the management inside. Maybe Bill is a big fish. Thinking of this, Dean said in a deep voice, "Can you tell me what class Bill and that Kaz belong to?" Bill's code name is Butcher. He is one of the 13 elders of the Lucifer game organization. Kaz is the new apostle he chose. In reality, his name is Amodio. He was originally just a high school student who strayed into the dark web. He came from a good family and was addicted to those purification videos. Finally, Bill noticed him and took the initiative to contact him and arrange this purification game. So I have made a great contribution. Yes, Butcher, that is, Bill, appeared in the list of elders of the Lucifer game organization 3 years ago. He was the last of the 13 elders. We found a lot of useful information in his computer. You have indeed made a great contribution. Anthony gave Dean affirmation. Manan, who had been standing aside and had not spoken, added, "This also means trouble. Bill is the first elder of this game organization to be arrested and shot dead. We are not sure whether they will retaliate against you." The fact that Dean killed Bill was not known to the outside world, but the news spread throughout the Los Angeles branch in just one day. It is difficult to ensure that there is someone like Bill here. Seeing too much darkness, it is easy to sink into darkness, not to mention that many police stations in the United States have some gang-like organizations. In this country, the police are just a profession. It is difficult to distinguish between black and white, and it is not that great. Dean was silent for a moment, concealed some information involving his privacy, and then carefully told the whole story. Before leaving, Anthony invited Dean again. "You have a kind of specialty, maybe you can consider joining the FBI. We will give you a broader platform, and your family will also be protected." "No." Before Dean spoke, Monan angrily drove Anthony away. Even so, he was still worried, and ran back to comfort him. "Dean, don't worry, I have reported your credit to the director. If you have any other requests, you can also tell me. It is easy to get a lot of money, but it is hard to find a general." Dean played a huge role in 2 cases in a row. Monan has realized that Dean is his lucky star. Hearing Monan's undisguised solicitation, Dean thought for a moment and asked tentatively, "Captain, the previous hotel copycat murder case and the current serial home invasion murder case have actually been solved, right? In principle, we still need to go through the process, and Kaz is still on the run." Moon thought Dean wanted to ask about the reward, so he assured him, "But in fact, the case can actually be announced as solved, so you don't have to worry about your credit going away." Almost at the moment when Moon was sure, Dean heard 2 consecutive ding prompts in his mind. In 1989, the Internet framework was just starting, and this was set up in advance for the needs of the plot. Chapter 37, Double Level Up. The hotel wife killing imitation case was solved, and the experience points plus 200. Patch upgrade, kill all criminals, arrest all criminals, and the case will be considered closed. 2 pieces of information flashed through Dean's mind. Dean was shocked and extremely happy. This time, he actually got unexpected results. And the results far exceeded his expectations. When Dean just activated the detective panel, he naturally understood the purpose of the panel. As long as the case was solved and closed, he could gain experience points, upgrade the character level, and gain attribute points and skill points. Solving a case does not need to be explained. What about closing a case? The basis for this definition is a bit vague. For example, in the first bank armored car robbery, he had already killed Nathan and other robbers and recovered the stolen money. In principle, the case was closed. But the final settlement of experience points was not settled until Eve completed the process. At that time, Dean was thinking, this case closure, does it require the official process to be completed before it is considered a complete case closure? Or does it require the criminal to be caught and then recognized by the relevant people in charge of the case before it is considered a case closure? The former is too aggrieved, because according to his current understanding, in many cases, even if the criminal is caught, the other party may not be convicted in the end according to the process. In this case, he is working in vain. The latter is also unstable, because if the person in charge of the case, that is, Meng En now, turns against him one day, finds fault with him, deliberately prevents him from making meritorious contributions, and blocks his case, wouldn't he be embarrassed? This is why Dean has always been very restrained before. Now it's different. No matter what the official says. In the future, Dean only needs to kill or capture the criminal, and the experience points can be obtained. There is no need to wait, no need to worry about process problems, and no need to worry about whether the criminal will escape. He is free. This is the most important thing. In addition, Dean found that he seemed to have an extra gain. With the help of the panel, he can judge whether the case has been handled cleanly. For example, in a case like Bill's, where there are layers of crimes, it is inevitable that there will be negligence and omissions, and the murderer hidden deeper will be let go. At this time, Dean can check whether the case is closed or not through the panel, and determine whether the case is really closed completely in the first place. Thinking of this, Dean's mood at the moment is undoubtedly very happy. Dean. Seeing Dean suddenly stunned, Meng En reminded him with some concern. Dean came back to his senses and apologized. Sorry, Captain, I was just thinking, after the case is over, can I get a promotion in police rank and position? Hearing this, Meng En looked a little embarrassed. Dean, I really want to promote your position, but you have been in the detective bureau for too short a time, and you haven't even received a full month's salary. Without waiting for Dean to speak, he quickly added, but don't worry, the credit will be remembered first. In addition, I will allocate a part of the funds of the 4th Squadron to you and Lawrence as a bonus. Well, I'm really short of money recently. Dean pretended to be disappointed. Don't worry, I will handle the bonus as soon as possible. Meng En was very humble at this time, and asked about his well-being. You don't have to worry about the case. The hospitalization expenses will be reimbursed by the Detective Bureau. You just need to rest well and take care of your body. Our 4th Squadron will be busier and busier in the future. The two exchanged a few more pleasantries. Meng En smiled and left the ward. He was always tolerant and polite to capable people. After Meng En left, Dean immediately called out the panel, Detective Panel, Character, Dean Level 3, 200/400, Spirit. 11 Strength. 13 Speed. 10 Endurance. 8 Skills, Pistol Mastery, Torture, L2, Blow Needle, L2. Attribute points. 0 skill points. 0 completed cases, omitted. I still need 200 experience points before I can level up. I just don't know how many experience points the serial home invasion and stabbing case will give me in the end. Dean looked at endurance. He was able to escape from Bill's hands unscathed, relying on his muscle and bone strength far exceeding that of ordinary people, which was mostly brought by the strength attribute. But his recovery speed was not as fast as expected. Dean suspected that this was related to endurance. Endurance represents the speed of metabolism and the strength of functions such as the heart and lungs, and is a guarantee of a man's endurance. On second thought, these are actually manifestations of recovery. If you recover quickly, you will naturally be more durable and have more endurance than others. Dean's current endurance attribute is 8, which is not bad for his age, but not outstanding either. My current strength and speed, plus my proficiency in pistols, are enough for me to protect myself in the city, but my recovery is too average. Bullets don't have eyes. If my recovery is stronger, even if I suffer some serious injuries, I will have a better chance of survival. Dean's eyes flashed with hesitation, and finally shook his head. The best defense is offense. Looking at the United States where guns are free. No matter how strong your recovery is, as long as you are hit in the heart and head, you will die. On the contrary, wear a bulletproof vest. As long as his speed and reaction are fast enough, coupled with his proficient level of marksmanship, he will have a chance of survival in the face of siege. Acceleration is the right way. Dean made up his mind to focus on acceleration and strength in the future. When he feels that he can't bear the consumption of his body, he will improve his endurance. As for the spirit, let's talk about it when there is a chance. As long as you can draw your gun quickly, you don't need to think about it. The second day of hospitalization, in the evening, Dean said goodbye to the reluctant female nurse and limped to a blonde woman. "Eve, let's go. Accompany me to buy some gifts." The blonde woman was Dean's previous boss, Deputy Captain Eve of the Narcotics Division. "Tisk, Dean, you are really a male dog in heat. Your limbs are injured, but you can still seduce these nurses." Eve pouted with some jealousy and helped Dean open the car door. "I just injured my limbs. This doesn't affect me helping those nurses and fulfilling their dream of being a female knight." Dean got into the car with some effort. After all, it was not a serious injury. After 2 days and 1 night of rest, apart from being unable to do strenuous exercise, he had no major problems with simple walking. Eve got on the car from the other side and complained before starting the car, "Don't you know that these nurses have an affair with almost all doctors?" "Who cares?" Dean shrugged. His mating skill is as high as L3, but he has it through his hard work and study. In his dark life and his previous life, women were the only medicine for him to maintain his humanity and not completely embrace darkness. It is still the same now. It is difficult for people like him to completely trust others. Being a prodigal is the most suitable way for him to return. No mistakes. Eve came here not only to act as a driver, but also brought him half a month's salary, as well as the reimbursement of the previous undercover expenses, which added up to a total of $6,800. With this money, plus he has nothing to do now. Dean simply left the hospital early and prepared to make up for the gifts he promised to his family, and to maintain his relationship with Eve, which would facilitate his future plans. A single tree cannot make a forest. Eve, who is about to become the captain of the Narcotics Division, is a good partner. Dean is confident that he can control her. Buy a good gift. Eve thoughtfully sent Dean to his mother Sheila's residence. "Are you sure you don't want to treat me to a meal?" "Dean, I actually have a dream of being a female knight." "Sorry, this old horse of mine is already overwhelmed. Maybe you can find a bar to pretend to be drunk, or find a drunk to vent your wildness." Dean carried 3 gift boxes, leaving Eve, who was about to go crazy, and walked into the yard without looking back. He was hanging Eve. This way, it would be easier to use the chicken when needed. On the other side, police cars shuttled through the night in the suburbs, surrounding a remote farm. Inside the farm, a man with bloodshot eyes, listening to the urgent alarm outside and watching the red and blue light coming through, picked up the phone and roared in a low voice, "Asshole, you betrayed me. Kaz, this is the rule of the game." The mechanical voice on the other end of the phone was cold and cruel, and it saw through all his thoughts. "If you refuse our request, you will be purified. Katz, this is not a good choice. But if you choose to cooperate, you will replace the butcher and become one of the new 13 elders, and we allow you to push all the crimes onto the butcher, and then hire a good lawyer. Your sentence will not exceed 5 years." Bang! The man punched the wooden wall hard. Outside the house, the roar of the hounds had already sounded. They smelled his scent. The police were also approaching quickly. "Kaz, you have no more than 20 seconds to think about it. After that, this phone will be completely useless. FK. Amodio, the man codenamed Katz, gritted his teeth, like a trapped beast, breathing heavily. Agree to cooperate. He might only be sentenced to a few years in prison, but he would be doomed. Refuse. Even in prison, he would definitely die. The other party did not give him a chance to choose. Amodio sat on the wooden board resignedly, ignoring the footsteps getting closer and closer. "I agree to cooperate, but I must know who made me reveal my identity." His identity is not exposed. He is not only the second-generation rich man that everyone envies, but he can also enjoy the pleasure of killing in the dark. Now, everything is over. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and finally at the last moment when the police rushed in from outside the yard, he said a name, Dean Lee. As soon as the voice fell, there was a crash outside the door. The phone in Amodio's hand also heated up violently. He threw it out quickly. Boom! The violent chemical reaction turned the entire phone into a fireball. The next moment, hearing the movement inside, the police who were about to break the door, without any hesitation, picked up the spray gun in his hand and pulled the trigger. Bang! The spray gun roared and the door exploded. Several fully armed policemen rushed in, looking for the suspect. Under the lights, Amodio had already laid on the ground with his hands on his head. After a few policemen looked around cautiously, they grabbed Amodio's hair and handcuffed him, put on a black hood, and dragged him out like a dead dog. Thus, the last murderer of the serial stabbing case, Kaz, Amodio, was arrested. The case was completely over. Amodio sat in the police car, silent, but when you pulled off his hood, you will find that his mouth shape has been chanting the same word, Dean. At the same time, Dean, who had just walked into the house, received a message from the panel the moment Amodio was arrested. Serial home invasion stabbing case solved. Experience value plus 800. Congratulations on upgrading. L3 L5. Attribute points plus 2. Skill points plus 2. Add the 200 experience points from the previous case. It's just a 2-level upgrade. I have already written 3,000 to 4,000 words. Everyone, go to bed early. Good night. Thank you to the book friend Yizhi Wei Wang for the 3,000 book coins. Thank you to the book friend Gu Jiu Daijun Gui for the reward. Chapter 38 Warmth. It seems that Kaz has been caught. This is such a surprise. Dean blew a whistle and rang the doorbell. It was Sinclair who opened the door. She opened the door a crack, but did not remove the chain lock. Instead, she showed a sly smile. Dean, you haven't been home for a few days. Mom is very unhappy. She said that she is going to lose her most handsome son. But if I help, Mom should calm down and let you in. Mom Sheila is a very traditional Italian farmer's daughter. Their life concept is somewhat similar to that of the Chinese. They are more inclined to family life and like to live with their families. Therefore, in this country, it is more common for Chinese and Italian families to form families. Faced with Sinclair's naked bribery, Dean kicked the gift box at his feet. But I brought you a gift this time. Wow! Sinclair shouted with joy and pulled off the chain lock. I will help you say good things, my handsome brother. After that, she jumped up and gave Dean a hug and kiss. Dean was hugged by Sinclair, and his shoulders were injured. He grimaced in pain, but a smile appeared in his eyes unconsciously. This is family. So nice. After entering the house, his mother, who was addicted to talk shows, gave Dean a big hug and kiss to express her welcome. Baby, are you done with your case? Of course. Dean put down the largest gift box with difficulty. We caught the serial rapist who broke into the house and murdered, and I also got a few days of vacation. It seems that you are very adaptable to your current job. Sheila kicked the big gift box at her feet and said with some dissatisfaction, but you look a little weak, son. Dean, I just sprained my arm. It's not easy to use force. Sinclair also brought a glass of cold drink and joined the topic. Brother, no need to explain. You are so handsome. It's normal to be a little weak. It's better than you walking timidly and limping, which makes me worry. That's right. Sheila nodded in agreement. Dean? Question mark? He didn't understand. Okay, let's change the subject. The small box is Mom's, the middle box is yours, Sinclair, and the last big box is Thompson's. By the way, where is Thompson? I went on a date. While Sinclair explained, he quickly picked up his box, opened it, and then exclaimed, it's the latest witch costume, and there's also a witch makeup set. This thing is super expensive. My sisters will definitely be super jealous of me. I love you so much, brother. Sheila couldn't wait to open the gift box. Dean gave her a whole set of cosmetics. Mom, thank you for taking care of us 4 brothers and sisters like a father and a mother. This is what he said from his heart, with gratitude from his predecessor and his own admiration. In America, it is very rare to have a woman like Sheila who raised 4 children alone after her husband died and stopped looking for a new partner in order to prevent the children from being wronged. Sheila was moved to tears by Dean's words. She covered her mouth with her hands and cried, Dean, I'm glad you've really grown up. You never said these things before. I like your gift very much. Dean was very perceptive and gave Sheila a firm hug. We will protect you from now on, Mom. The two were being sentimental. Sinclair, the stinky sister, broke the atmosphere. Mom, have you noticed that after work, Dean is getting better and better at coaxing girls? Dean rolled his eyes and gave her a middle finger. He watched a talk show with the two of them. Dean used the excuse of going upstairs to rest, and limped up the stairs with a big toolbox he prepared for Thompson. The box was very heavy, and every step he took with it would cause injuries. Sinclair accidentally glimpsed this scene, took a breath, and quickly pulled over Sheila, who had not yet recovered from the previous sentimental, and whispered quietly, "Mom, look at Dean's walking posture." Sheila wiped her tears, turned her head and took a breath. "Oh Sinclair, do you have a suitable partner to introduce to your brother?" "I have many sisters, but if I introduce them to my brother, he will go to jail." Sinclair's face was full of entanglement. Her sisters are not very old. Dean didn't know that he had been misunderstood as a gay by his mother and sister. He was now lying on the bed, preparing to start strengthening himself. Each strengthening was powered by a warm current, which was very magical. Dean was curious whether this warm current would help his injuries. His heart moved. The values on the detective panel changed. Attribute points: 21. Speed: 1011. The warm current arrived as expected. The next moment, Dean's eyes showed joy. As the warm current strengthened the body, the wounds on his limbs also felt numb. The strengthening was over. Dean clenched his fists and raised his legs. The joy in his eyes gradually faded. It seems that when strengthening, healing is just a byproduct. Although it is effective, it is not as strong as expected. It is probably useless for fatal injuries. No more bugs. A little disappointed, Dean tried the changes in his body again. His body became lighter and his reaction speed was slightly improved, but it was not a qualitative change. The injuries on his body basically did not affect his normal activities. Continue. Attribute points: 10. Speed: 1112. No mistake. This time the warm current was even greater. The strengthening was over. Dean found that his injuries had completely recovered. At the same time, the coordination of his hands and feet finally showed a significant difference, just like last time. This was because his nerve reaction had obviously become faster, but his body had not adapted immediately. Dean spent the whole night adapting to the changes in his body. The next day, the sky gradually brightened. Dean sat cross-legged on the bed, took his right hand out of his pocket, and put it in front of his eyes again. Between his fingers, an inconspicuous black blade had appeared. His fingers trembled. The blade flexibly shuttled between his fingers like flowing water, and under the reflection of the morning light, it left a series of black phantoms, like undulating waves. The whole process lasted for more than 10 minutes. Dean stopped contentedly until his fingers trembled slightly and the blade slipped out of his hand. Now he is not only durable, powerful, but also very flexible. The future is promising. As for the 2 skill points, Dean plans to keep them first. The base of his body has become stronger. The energy consumed by Dean's every move has also increased. He touched his belly. He walked downstairs. "Dean, why don't you sleep a little longer?" His mother, Sheila, has already gotten up and is preparing breakfast for her 3 precious children. "Go to bed early, get up early, Mom, your breakfast is so delicious, I love it." Dean picked up a sandwich and ate it greedily. Haha. When Sheila heard Dean's praise, her eyes were full of satisfaction, but she said disdainfully, "Have you brushed your teeth?" He brushed them after eating. After breakfast, Sinclair and Thompson, who were going to school, finally got up. Seeing Dean, Thompson was unusually enthusiastic. "Brother, your gift is great." Of course, a complete set of toolboxes is every man's dream. "By the way, Thompson, have a good date." Thompson smiled without saying anything, a little shy. Sinclair on the side was full of disdain. "Thompson, I thought you wouldn't come back yesterday, and I kindly put an umbrella in your pocket. I bought it with my pocket money. You really wasted my money." Haha. Dean was amused by Sinclair's words. Speaking of which, this should have been his responsibility as a brother, but Sinclair did it for him. He pinched Sinclair's chubby cheeks and said, "See you next weekend, everyone." The warmth of home warmed Dean's lonely heart. He began to truly live his current identity and enjoy it. He got himself in the right mood. Dean was going to the detective station to interrogate Kaz in person. He would never allow anyone to ruin everything that was beautiful now. Not even God. Wow, it seems like there are a lot of new readers. Welcome. This morning, Guzai has already finished the outline of the next case. The case is very bloody, haha, look forward to it. Finally, please keep reading. Chapter 39, Shame on You. Detective Station. Harry saw the person who pushed the door in, rubbed his eyes, and patted the white man next to him. "Lawrence, am I seeing right? Is this Dean?" Lawrence was lying on the bed, not even looking up. Dude, Dean is still in the hospital. This joke is not funny at all. What's a joke? Dean walked up, smiling, and threw out 2 cigarettes. Wow. Lawrence was hit in the face by the cigarette, and then he realized that Harry was not joking. He turned over and jumped up from the recliner. Looking at Dean, who was standing alive in front of him, he stretched out his hairy hand and touched him. No way, are you a monster? Based on my years of experience, with your injuries, it will be difficult for you to even walk within a week. Dean slapped Lawrence's hairy hand away in disgust. I heard that Amodio, Kaz, was arrested, so I rushed here. Where is he being held now? In the interrogation room. Harry looked a little unhappy, but the FBI is interrogating him, and we can't even get close now. So domineering. Dean frowned. We caught the man. Don't we even have the qualifications to participate in the interrogation? Lawrence nodded. Almost. If you check the information of Bill and Amodio, you will find that we have no authority at all. He sighed and continued. I encountered this situation before in the 1st Squadron. The deceased had real documents on him. But based on the information on the documents, I went to check it out myself and found that it was a fake identity. A real fake identity. There are real consumption records, tax payment records, hotel check-in records, and even the information queried on the police system is the photo of that person, but in reality, the person is not that person. Is he from the FBI? Harry obviously heard this from Lawrence for the first time. Lawrence nodded. I didn't know at first, and I had no choice but to apply for a DNA comparison. Guess what I found out? Harry pondered for a moment and said playfully, he is your relative. Get out. Lawrence rolled his eyes. Harry, my hints are so obvious, and you can't guess it. How did you get into the detective bureau? Harry put on an innocent face. When Captain Munn was not yet a captain, I helped him find his lost wallet in half an hour, and he let me in later. Okay. This is very Harry. Lawrence patted his forehead. He almost forgot Harry's connections in both black and white. Harry was a little unconvinced. Lawrence, are you doubting my IQ? Man, if you ask Dean to guess your damn discovery, he will definitely not be able to guess it. Harry. Dean interrupted Harry and said dimly, here, only criminals will leave their information in the DNA system. Harry. Lawrence looked at Harry's surprised expression, smiled and patted him on the shoulder, and continued, Dean is right. Through DNA comparison, I accidentally discovered that the deceased was imprisoned for fraud 5 years ago, and soon after reported an accidental death, and his identity was deleted. But his body appeared outside the prison. Later, I found out that the FBI recruited this guy and arranged a new identity for him. In that case, if these people continue to commit crimes, won't we even be able to lock down their identities? Harry tried to change the subject to resolve the embarrassment just now. Yes. Lawrence sneered. Crime is just like marijuana, it's addictive, but the FBI's skin gives them immunity. As long as we don't catch these bastards on the spot, we can't do anything. Because from a legal perspective, the criminal is Zhang San. But the evidence of the crime can only prove Zhang San's previous identity, Li Si. There's a bug here. Li Si is already dead. How could he commit a crime? So according to the process, unless the person can be caught red-handed, there will be no chance of trial, because the Chief Justice will not approve the police's testimony. It's so funny and fucked up. Harry was silent. Isn't this a legal crime? Lawrence exhaled a puff of smoke. The FBI's tricks are far more than these, so I'm not happy with them. By the way, Dean, you went to Amodio. Are you going to interrogate him? Dean didn't answer, but changed the subject. Since we have no control over Amodio, why are there only 2 of you in the office? He signed a confidentiality agreement about the Lucifer game organization, and it was not suitable to discuss it in public, especially with Harry, a big mouth. Harry answered Dean's doubts with some melancholy. The captain invited some media friends, and the deputy captain took Phoebe and the others to pretend. This is a good opportunity to be on camera, but they didn't take me with them, eh? Because if you stand with them, the audience will only think that the detectives brought a criminal up to show their experience. Lawrence smiled evilly. What about you, Butcher Lawrence? Harry was not convinced and refuted, but Lawrence hugged him directly and pressed him hard under him, his face pressed to the ground, pouting his butt and begging for mercy. He forgot that Lawrence was a professional wrestler before he became a policeman. Seeing the 2 of them fighting. No mistake. Dean dropped his cigarette butt and walked towards the interrogation room while the 2 were not paying attention. Anthony wanted to win him over. In addition, he already knew about the Lucifer game organization. Maybe he would let him get involved. He wanted to know more about the Lucifer game organization. The interrogation room is an independent floor with a special passage connecting the temporary detention area and the transfer passage. It is different from the simple temporary detention point of the branch, and the security is more stringent. Even if Dean and the others want to go, they must swipe the elevator card to reach the corresponding floor. After getting out of the elevator, two men in suits and sunglasses immediately came up. "Which department are you from? Don't you know that this place has been temporarily requisitioned by our FBI?" Dean's eyes flashed with displeasure. These two people are the same as Cheston, who was beaten by Lawrence before. Arrogant and annoying. He ignored the two men and took out his cell phone to dial the number Anthony left. After a moment, the two people blocking Dean's way heard a faint electric sound in their earphones. They looked at each other, and seemed to be dissatisfied with Dean's attitude. They stretched out their palms and said in embarrassment, "Sir, Anthony lets you go in, but we need to search you." Dean looked at the two people who stretched out their hands to him and shook his head helplessly. The next moment, the wind of the fists whistled, and the sunglasses flew off. Dean punched one man in the chin, knocking his body to the side and falling horizontally to the ground. The other man hadn't reacted yet, but he felt his stomach numb, and the whole person flew into the air, and then he was kicked and hit the iron railing behind him. "Shame on you." Dean adjusted his coat and walked towards the interrogation room in a good mood. Lawrence didn't lie to him. It's really fun to beat up these idiots. Being the protagonist is nothing. On the surface, the FBI has no way to deal with him, just like the detectives have no way to deal with the people recruited by the FBI because they are not in the same system. As for the situation Lawrence described, it really exists. It's magical, right? Haha. Chapter 40: Dean's Psychological Counseling Session. Outside the interrogation room, Anthony stood with his hands on his chest, waiting for Dean. "Agent Anthony, you look a little tired, need a cup of coffee?" Dean greeted enthusiastically, without any embarrassment after just beating up Anthony's men. "Your coffee here is not good." Anthony put down his hand and pointed to the LCD screen outside the interrogation room. "It seems that your injuries have recovered well." The LCD screen was replaying the process of Dean knocking down the two fools, punching and kicking, with clean and neat moves, perfectly showing his strength and speed. When did an LCD monitor appear here? Dean was very thick-skinned and changed the subject directly. "Harry said that you have requisitioned the interrogation room since last night, and it is not over yet. It seems that the interrogation is not going well." "It's going well, but it's not what we want." Anthony took out a document from the side and threw it to Dean. Amodio blamed Bill for all the crimes. "This is the testimony." Dean picked up the document and flipped through it quickly. The testimony was written in a very sloppy way. The gist of it was, when Amodio was in high school, he came into contact with the dark web by chance. Because of his curiosity, he secretly bought some alternative videos to watch. Not long ago, Bill suddenly found him and threatened him with the purchase records of those videos, forcing him to commit 3 crimes and providing criminal guidance throughout the process. In addition, regarding the Lucifer gaming organization, Amodio said that he was just a puppet who was forced and a victim. Now his mind has been greatly traumatized, and he has no idea about the damn gaming organization. It is no wonder that Anthony said that this is not what they want. Dean put down the document. "If you testify according to these testimonies, how long will Amodio be sentenced to?" Amodio provided the chat records in which Bill threatened him. If the judge accepts these testimonies, plus his confession attitude, he will change from the principal offender to an accomplice, and the sentence will not exceed 10 years. Anthony took out a cigarette tiredly and lit it. "And his family still has some money. Although we can't bail Amodio out, there are many ways to reduce his sentence. In my experience, Amodio won't be in prison for more than 5 years. So short?" Dean also took out a cigarette and started puffing. 3 lives were lost, and in the end, the criminals only receive less than 5 years in prison. This is very American. Moreover, the prisons here are completely different for rich and poor people, not to mention the large number of private prisons. However, these have nothing to do with Dean. He is not a person who hates evil. He came here just to get more information about the Lucifer game organization from Anthony. Amodio didn't speak. Anthony also had the harvest from Bill's family. Just when Dean wanted to ask, Anthony spoke first. I thought you would ask why we were so gentle with Amodio. Dean shrugged. Well, why? The FBI doesn't have so many broken rules as their detective department. They have many ways to make ordinary criminals lose their citizenship. After that, the criminals are no different from pigs and dogs, and can be manipulated by anyone. So the current situation is not normal. Anthony stamped out a cigarette butt and said, "You will know if you go to the observation window. In another hour, we will have interrogated him for 12 hours. We must hand Amodio over to you and then leave." Is there such a thing? Dean was curious and walked to the observation window and looked inside. There were only two people in the interrogation room. One was a thin blonde white young man. He lowered his head and could not see the expression on his face, but his handcuffed hands had already revealed his identity. This was Amodio, the game apostle chosen by Bill, codenamed Kaz, and also a rich second generation in Los Angeles. His family wealth exceeded 10 million and he had some capital. Dean did not expect him to be so young. Next to Amodio sat a middle-aged man in a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. There was a black briefcase under the man's feet. He looked like a lawyer. He sat next to Amodio. Even though there were only two of them inside, they still held a pen in one hand and a notebook in the other, with a recorder hanging on their chest, giving them a meticulous look. The FBI interrogated the prisoner and let the lawyer be present. Dean looked at Anthony in confusion. This is outrageous. Anthony lit another cigarette with a melancholy look. The man sitting next to Amodio is a full-time lawyer for the Los Angeles Trucking Guild. He was hired by Amodio's father. Very powerful. Not powerful, but very troublesome. Anthony's sunken brown eyes revealed dissatisfaction. The Trucking Guild affects a lot of votes, so the chairman of the guild has a good relationship with many congressmen. Although they can't directly influence our FBI, they can influence those congressmen and our direct superiors. He didn't say a word, and that damn lawyer was present, so many of our methods couldn't be used. Anthony sighed. No mistake, one post, one content, one book, one bar. The FBI is indeed powerful. But he couldn't do anything after the boss gave a warning. How about this, Anthony? Dean crossed his hands and pressed his fingers. I will help you solve the little trouble in front of you. If it is convenient for you, give me a share of the harvest at Bill's house. Are you serious? Of course, if you agree, give me 20 minutes. Okay, happy cooperation. Anthony originally agreed to Dean's coming, just to use the unfair facts in front of him to stimulate this young man, so that it would be easier to accept Dean later. Now that Dean suddenly said he wanted to help, Anthony would naturally not refuse. Regardless of whether it succeeds or not, he can observe Dean's methods up close. Anthony lowered his head and muttered twice on his collar. The door of the interrogation room opened. Go in, Dean. As long as you don't do anything, you can do whatever you want. Wait. Dean took out his pistol from behind, disassembled it, fiddled with the parts, reassembled it, and then put it on his waist. Okay, remember to turn off the monitoring and recording for me, and turn them on at the critical moment. Dean raised his eyebrows at Anthony and then walked into the interrogation room. Hearing the movement, Amodio still kept his head down. The middle-aged lawyer glanced at Dean and calmly picked up his watch. You have 57 minutes left. If you exceed this time, I will file a lawsuit against your FBI branch. Sorry. Dean stretched out his hand and dragged the long table on the other side to the lawyer and Amodio. I am not from the FBI, but a psychological counseling therapist. Hey, what's going on? The lawyer's face showed anger. My employer does not need psychological counseling. Amodio, who had been keeping his head down, heard the exclamations of the lawyers around him and the sound of the table being dragged, and couldn't help but look up and look at Dean with bloodshot eyes. He was not as nervous as the lawyer. The FBI's helplessness made him sure that the organization had not broken its promise. His father was not capable of finding a full-time lawyer for a large guild when the election was approaching. In his testimony, he said that his mind was deeply traumatized and we need to give him an assessment. Dean explained softly to the lawyer with a bad look. Then what are you doing by pulling the table over here? The lawyer was talking when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the surveillance camera in the interrogation room. He didn't know when it had been turned off. He immediately realized that something was wrong and his voice withered. Dean's tone was still soft. Don't be nervous, Mr. Lawyer. As a professional psychological counselor, I need a table to put some ordinary psychological counseling props. Isn't it normal? While speaking, he took out a pistol, a blade, nail polish, a small package of fine needles, and 7 or 8 pieces of thin paper from his body and placed them in front of the two people one by one. This time, Amodio, who was still calm, subconsciously choked on his saliva. It seemed that something was wrong. The conditions are simple and the things prepared are not very sufficient. Please forgive me. Dean supported his hands on the table and looked at the two people with a kind smile. Who of you wants to be the first to enjoy my psychological counseling treatment? Transition chapter. There is another chapter around 11 o'clock. Today is the first day of going out. May I ask if eggs are so expensive now? 10 eggs are 15 yuan and 4 peppers are 4 yuan. I want to lay eggs myself. Chapter 41. Anthony, who is hiding deep inside, Dean Lee. Man, this joke is not funny at all. Looking at the blades, needles, and pistols in front of him, the elite lawyer lost his sharp words and stuttered. Joke. The smile on Dean's face faded little by little. Why do you think this is a joke? Just because you are a guild lawyer. Bang. The chair fell to the ground. The poor lawyer had no power to resist, and was strangled by Dean's hand, and the whole person was lifted up, staring at the air. He grabbed Dean's hands with both hands, his eyes full of horror. Madman. This is a madman. He actually attacked me in the detective bureau. Damn, I can't breathe. At this moment, countless thoughts emerged in the mind of this lawyer who had been at the negotiation table for a long time, and finally all of them were fixed on the surveillance light in the interrogation room that was no longer on. Now here, in the blind spot of surveillance, with a rapid consumption of oxygen in the lawyer's body. In panic. In just over 10 seconds, the face of this well-dressed lawyer had been flushed by the blocked blood, like a prawn that had been cooked, with a ferocious expression. Amodio, who was standing by, was so frightened by the scene that he shrank into a ball. He wanted to run, but his handcuffed hands fixed him to the chair and he couldn't move at all. Amodio could only curl his head tightly and pray that Dean would not notice him. At this moment, he was no longer as violent as when he committed the crime. Just when the lawyer thought he was going to die, snap, Dean suddenly let go of his hand. The lawyer fell to the ground, holding his throat and coughing violently, breathing heavily regardless of the saliva flying and snot running. Survived. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Dean threw the pistol in front of the lawyer. Either shoot me or tell me who asked you to be Amodio's lawyer. The election is approaching. The head of the Los Angeles Truckers Guild, unless his brain is full of shit, would not let the lawyer in front of him defend the murderer of the previous serial home invasion murder case. Once this news spread, the head of the Los Angeles Truckers Guild was about to step down on the spot. No, the lawyer hurriedly crawled back. He was not stupid. This gun must not be fired. If it is touched, it will leave fingerprints, and his death will be in vain. Please let me go. I will not defend Amodio. You can do whatever you want to him. Let me go. I will leave immediately, and I am willing to sign a confidentiality agreement for this matter. The lawyer knelt on the ground, crying and begging for mercy. The confidence of these people is only effective for people who follow the rules. But Dean in front of him, no matter how you look at it, looks like a pervert. It's difficult for me to deal with you not cooperating with my treatment like this. Dean shook his head regretfully, but I admire people with professional ethics. Since you are unwilling to speak, I won't force you. The lawyer's eyes were bright again. He lay on the ground, looking at Dean eagerly, just hoping to hear from this madman that he is willing to let him go. Looking at the light of hope in the lawyer's eyes, Dean grinned, his eyes full of indifference to life. So, before I finish treating Amodio, Mr. Lawyer, think of an epitaph for you and your family, just as a reward for your silence. The light of hope in the lawyer's eyes shattered. The door of the interrogation room must be opened from the outside. The guns on the ground are definitely a trap. The madman in front of him was not prepared to give him a chance to live, and even threatened him with the lives of his entire family. At this moment, the lawyer's heart was full of despair. Because, if he opened his mouth, it would be the same ending. The lawyer suddenly howled and rushed up from the ground. He did not rush to Dean, but pounced on Amodio, who was curled up like an ostrich. FK, it's all you bastard who ruined me, go to hell. Bang! Before he could get close to Amodio, Dean kicked him away. Think about it again. After that, Dean ignored the lawyer lying on the ground, grabbed Amodio's hair, pulled his head down, and forced him to look at himself. Amodio has not rested for a moment since he was arrested. His mind has been in a tense state, and his eyes are full of bloodshot. He looked at Dean in horror. Damn it. Isn't this the territory of the detective bureau? This madman openly abuses prisoners here and even threatens lawyers. Are there still human rights and laws in this world? Tisk tisk tisk. Dean picked up a piece of thin paper and slowly covered his face. Mr. Amodio, I'm sorry to see you here. I originally thought that the murderer who could torture 3 women would be a good patient for treatment, but your current performance has disappointed me. Amodio quickly blew the paper off his face. I was forced. If I didn't do that, Bill would take my life. Really? Dean was neither anxious nor slow. He bent down and picked up the water bottle under Amodio, and imitated Amodio's tone at the time. No. I haven't played enough. Got it, Butcher. It's a pleasure to cooperate with you, and I look forward to the start of the next game. Hearing these words, Amodio's pupils contracted violently, and his heart almost stopped. Damn it. Wasn't this the last call he had with Bill? Dean looked at Amodio, who was terrified to the extreme, and he knew what was going on. He continued to provoke. Amodio, didn't Lucifer tell you that we had already installed monitoring software on Bill's phone? Oh, right. The reason why you were arrested so quickly was because a kind-hearted person reported your location. Let me guess, did they trick you and say that they would arrange everything and make sure you were safe, so you foolishly surrendered? Amodio gritted his teeth. No way. Lucifer gave me such an important task, it's impossible for me to die on my own initiative. The madman in front of me. He must be deceiving me. Fear reached the limit. The tyranny in Amodio's heart rose instead. He glared at Dean fiercely. Who are you? I swear, I must kill you and all the opposite sex in your family. Dean's face sank. Very good, the treatment begins. By the way, my name is Dean. Don't forget it when you meet Satan. Dean. You are Dean. Amodio's eyes almost jumped out of his sockets, turning into flames, burning Dean to ashes. Asshole. I stuff Amodio's mouth with paper. Dean picked up a piece of thin paper with an expressionless face, wet it, and covered Amodio's face. With Amodio's rapid breathing, the flexible and absorbent thin paper suddenly fit tightly around his nose. Losing oxygen intake, Amodio struggled frantically, but his hands could not get rid of the restraints of the handcuffs. Thin paper covered his face, and layers of ice water infected it. After a while, Amodio's whole body twitched, and a foul smell came from under him. He was incontinent. On the side, the lawyer who was struggling to get a gun to fight Dean looked at the miserable Amodio, choked and said weakly, I said, it was the Dagger Gang who asked me to defend Amodio. Very good, Mr. Lawyer, it seems that your treatment is very effective. Dean squatted down. Tell me, what is the situation with the Dagger Gang? No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, take a look. The Trucking Guild is a large guild in the United States. In the early years, it was actually a gang. Now it is just whitewashed. Ordinary gangs dare not attack the lawyers of the Trucking Guild, especially when the election is approaching. The lawyer glanced at Amodio, who was almost motionless, and said very quickly, the Dagger Gang is the largest violent gang in Los Angeles. They threatened me with the lives of my family. I dare not refuse at all. As long as you protect my family, I am willing to come forward to testify against the Dagger Gang. Know the target. Dean picked up a plastic pen beside him, removed the refill, and thrust it hard into Amodio's throat, then punched him in the chest. Whoosh! A foul smell immediately rushed out of the pen tube. Amodio was alive again. After doing all this, Dean took out a cigarette, lit it, took a puff, and threw it to the lawyer. In his blank eyes, he took out his detective ID, pointed to the badge on it and said, remember, this is the most violent gang in Los Angeles. You will be glad that you accepted my treatment today. After saying that, he picked up the gun and the objects on the table and walked out of the already open door of the interrogation room. In fact, if the lawyer really helped Amodio, he would be dead. The Dagger Gang would kill him. The Truckers Guild, who reacted, would not let him go either. Behind him, the lawyer looked at Dean's back as he left, picked up the cigarette on the ground, put it in his mouth, and after a few puffs, whispered, thank you, Detective Dean. He understood what Dean meant. But before that, he had no choice. Outside the interrogation room, Anthony looked at Dean with a complicated expression. You are even wilder than I thought. He wanted to say crazy and perverted. In fact, Dean's performance in there just now didn't seem like a performance at all, but more like revealing his true face. Thank you for the compliment. Dean leaned against the wall. The dagger gang mentioned by the lawyer should be related to the Lucifer game organization. In addition, as for Amodio, I can see that he seems to think that Lucifer's people have deceived him, so I suspect he was arrested with a purpose. I know. Anthony took out a cigarette and put it in Dean's mouth, lighting it for him personally. I guessed that there was something wrong with this lawyer, but I didn't care. Why? Dean was puzzled. Anthony was relieved when he saw Dean like this. Previously in the interrogation room, Dean didn't look like a 21-year-old young man who had just graduated from the police academy for half a year, but a seasoned torturer and a butcher who is indifferent to life. Now he is back to normal. Anthony thought for a moment and explained, because he represents the trucking guild. Dean, the more you do, the more mistakes you make, and the less you do, the fewer mistakes you make. There are many factions in the FBI. I would rather listen to the people above and pretend not to know. In this way, if there is a problem later, the trucking guild will also take the blame. But if I intervene, the unlucky ones will be me and the newcomers under me. This is politics. This is my first lesson for you. He stretched out his hand. Let me get to know you again, Anthony Morgan, a veteran of the FBI and a newcomer training instructor. I am currently lacking someone who can inherit my abilities. I am very optimistic about you, Dean. Dean stretched out his hand. Dean Lee, a rookie detective who is hiding his abilities. Anthony, are you sure you can take me down? I have personally taught more than 300 students. Some have died, some have withdrawn, but there are still many, scattered in various departments across the United States, forming a special network of personal connections. Anthony held Dean's hand and said seriously, Dean, this is the second lesson I taught you. To get out there, you must first have a background and connections, and finally the ability. Think about it carefully. After dealing with Amodio, I will give you the information from Bill and teach you the third lesson by the way. Okay, I also happen to be going to attend the funeral of a good friend, but I'm curious about what the third lesson is. Kill them all. Anthony's sunken eyes revealed a coldness. You must remember that many criminals, once they are caught and lose everything, will form an obsession with revenge, and our family is the best target for venting. He looked directly into Dean's eyes. So once you catch those brutal criminals who have the opportunity to get out of prison, you must learn to deal with them reasonably and don't leave hidden dangers for yourself and your family. Dean maintained the last reserve on his face. Mr. Anthony, I am looking forward to the third lesson. After that, he waved his hand and turned to leave. Damn. This old man is so fucking to my taste. Dean seemed calm at this time, but in fact he was howling in his heart. He has connections and suits my taste. Dean has made up his mind. After attending Mars' funeral, he will give in to old man Anthony. It's not bad to suck up to someone. He won't join the FBI, at least not for now. Please read on. Today's update adds up to more than 6,000 words, which is 3 chapters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Otherwise, I Should Immigrate. Mass's farewell ceremony was held at a venue provided by a funeral company. Neil invited a local pastor to preside over the ceremony. The funeral company was quite capable and made the scene very atmospheric and solemn. It also provided a rich variety of desserts and drinks. When Dean arrived, he almost thought that there was a party here. There were a lot of people at the scene. However, Dean still found Neil's position in the crowd at a glance. There was no way. There were too many men around Neil. A bunch of male dogs in heat. Dean pouted his lips, walked through the crowd, and used his strength to forcibly pull apart 2 men who were almost sticking to Neil. In Neil's surprised eyes, he hugged her. Sorry, I'm a little late. He actually arrived a long time ago, but he just took a stroll around the original residence of Santoni Forensic Doctor. The place had been sealed off, and there were no suspicious people wandering around. However, Dean noticed that there were many more cameras there, so after a simple observation, he left. Neil was obviously very surprised by Dean's arrival. She glanced at the men around her apologetically, then pulled Dean to a corner. I'm glad you're here today. I was worried about your injury. Mass is my good brother. I would have crawled here even if I had to. Dean looked at the crowd, but I didn't expect Mass to know so many people. There are probably more than 200 men and women here. Hearing this, Neil was a little distressed. Actually, my brother doesn't have many friends. These people are all employees of my mother's branch. You didn't tell me you're a little rich woman. Dean looked at Neil with a gentler look. With his face and figure, is it reasonable for him not to be a gigolo? No, that's all my mother's money, and these people make me feel uncomfortable. Neil's face was full of distress. Fortunately you came. She didn't like those men with ulterior motives sticking to her, but it was hard to refuse at her brother's farewell ceremony. Fortunately, Dean came. While the two were talking, a handsome young man with a not very friendly look came over and spoke in a pure London accent. Neil, is this your friend? This is the son of the president of my mother's branch, a rich second generation who likes to put on airs. Neil muttered a few words in Dean's ear, and then looked at the young man with an even more unfriendly expression. Fix, this is Dean, my brother and I's good friend. Dean, this is Fix, a colleague I just met. Fix was already unhappy when he saw Neil and Dean's intimacy, and he couldn't keep the reserved fake smile on his face after hearing her introduction. He glared at Dean. Hello, I'm Fix, the operations director of Damon Company. When he mentioned the operations director of Damon Company, Fix raised his voice heavily. Oh, Dean stretched out his hand to hug Neil's waist. Can't you see that I'm comforting Neil, and you still come to disturb me? You are so blind. Is the person who chose you as the operations director an idiot? While speaking, Dean's suit was open, revealing the pistol hanging on his chest. Fix, who was originally angry, suddenly calmed down. He looked at Neil. Neil was suddenly hugged by Dean's soft waist. She lowered her head stiffly. She didn't refute or leave, but her cheeks were flushed, shy and lovely. Seeing Neil leaning on the other person, lowering her head, and not even looking at him, Fix snorted coldly and turned away with an ugly face. He drove away the guy who wanted to steal his food. Dean lowered his head and put his mouth next to Neil's ear, exhaling hot breath. Sorry, I see that you are very distressed to deal with these people, so I will help you deal with it. By the way, the earlobe is a sensitive place for most men and women. This is a very intimate contact. Neil's body trembled, and she quickly pushed Dean away, breathing slightly hurriedly and said, It's okay, Dean, I'll go to greet the guests first, you can go shopping by yourself. After that, she hurried into the inner room. Not bad. Dean whistled, walked through the crowd, came to the portrait of Mass and bowed, saying in his heart, Good brother, don't worry, I will take good care of your sister. Neil is not a shy person. Her gesture shows that she has been moved. After the farewell ceremony, Mass's coffin was sent to the cemetery. This is the final farewell. Most of Las Vegas is Gobi and desert. If you want to enjoy a normal burial, the price is not low, so Mass's grave is located in the luxurious cemetery here. Traffic shuttles on the wide road. Dean held the roulette wheel in one hand and put his other hand on the car window, looking at Neil, who is wearing a black headscarf. Are you going to stay in Las Vegas in the future? I don't know. Neil shook her head, confused. My mother asked me to go back to London, but I don't like the endless hypocritical parties there. I might stay here in my mother's branch and learn management. How about Los Angeles? Dean grabbed Neil's hand. You are only lonely here, but Los Angeles has me. Neil looked at Dean. In the other's blue eyes, her reflection was reflected. At this moment, Neil's heart beat very fast. Suddenly, boom, a violent explosion came from the other side of the lane in front. No mistake, one song, one post, one content, 1 in 1 6, one book, one bar, one look. Then there were screams and machine gun fire. It's a heavy machine gun. Dean's expression changed, and he turned the steering wheel and rushed out of the convoy and stopped in the Gobi Desert outside. Neil, you're in the car. Where are you going? See what's happening in front. After that, Dean rushed to the hillside not far away with a thumb-sized telescope. At this moment, the entire lane was almost paralyzed. No one was unfamiliar with the sound of gunfire. Some people, like Dean, drove the car directly out of the lane, and some broke through the railings, turned around and ran back, and the scene became a mess. On the hillside, Dean curled up under a stone and observed the battlefield in the distance. The gunfight took place in the Gobi Desert that deviated from the lane. On one side were more than 10 off-road vehicles. A group of black uncles hid behind the cars, holding all kinds of messy weapons, shooting at the rocks in the distance. The target of the other side was located in the pile of rocks. From Dean's position, even with a small telescope, he couldn't see who the other party was. He could only notice the long tongue of gun flame that was visible to the naked eye even in the daytime. This thing, in this kind of terrain with little cover, is a perfect weapon for slaughter. What a crazy country. Dean licked his lips. It seems that the people in the rock pile ambushed the off-road vehicle convoy. The bullets from the heavy machine gun easily tore the bodies of those off-road vehicles into pieces. From time to time, blood mist exploded from there. Obviously, some unlucky people were directly hit in the body. Dean choked on his saliva. Crazy. This power is comparable to that of an anti-aircraft machine gun. What hatred and resentment. It was only a short 1 or 2 minutes. The sound of the Black Uncle's counterattack almost disappeared. Just when Dean thought the battle was over. Boom, the air hissed. A missile with white flames flew over Dean's head and landed accurately on the off-road vehicle position, tearing everything around it, and rising up a small mushroom of dust covering a radius of 100 meters. Dean. This is too exaggerated and outrageous. Otherwise, I'd better immigrate. Thank you to the book friend Yizhi Wei Wong for the 12,000 book coins reward. Thank you. Thank you to the book friend Abayang for the 1,500 book coins reward. Thank you. Thank you to the book friend Li Baidingxi for the 500 book coins reward. Thank you. Thank you to the book friend Angeluk Safa for the reward. Thank you everyone. In addition, please read it. Whether you can advance depends on today. Chapter 43 Touring Gang. Heavy machine guns swept across the area, and missiles washed the ground. This method of destroying corpses and erasing traces can be described as ruthless and inhumane. The residual power of the missiles only affected an area of 100 meters, but the noise caused made the already chaotic road even more chaotic. A large number of cars left the smooth concrete road and turned to the irregular Gobi Desert. They did not care about the damage to the cars and started to run back. Some vehicles accelerated and rushed through that section of the road. Dean climbed down the small dirt slope and got back into the car. Neil, we must leave here quickly. Neil's face turned pale from the explosion. She said helplessly, but my brother in front. Dean started the car and continued to drive forward. The funeral company's vehicle has passed. We will chase it directly from the Gobi Desert. The Gobi Desert is not like the road. There are many potholes. Ordinary cars are not only easily scratched by protruding stones on the chassis, but also easily fall into some sand pits and cannot move directly. Dean's car was originally a second-hand shabby car, and he didn't dare to drive it for a long time in such a place. After passing through the congested area of the road, he turned back. Not long after, they caught up with the convoy in front again. What happened just now? I was scared to death. Neil still looked frightened. She had never encountered such a thing when she was in the UK. It should be a gang fight. Dean said nonsense. In fact, the first thing he thought of was the heavy artillery he found in Santoni's garage before. The one who took action this time might be the person from the unknown force. How can there be such an exaggerated gang? Neil rolled his eyes at Dean and wanted to say something, but suddenly there was a buzzing noise in the sky. She looked outside. It turned out to be 2 armed helicopters flying from the opposite direction to the previous battle location. On the other side of the road, police cars and armed personnel carriers with flashing lights appeared one after another, following the armed helicopters rapidly. It seems. The appearance of the missile not only alarmed the Las Vegas police, but even the nearby garrisons. It's a big deal. Dean rubbed his eyes. He didn't think the ambushed people could get away. This group of people were unlucky. The ambush location was probably within the coverage of military radar, otherwise the garrison would not react so quickly, not to mention those street patrol officers and state police. Yes, Neil interrupted Dean's thoughts and handed him a pair of sunglasses. Dean, you have light eyes. If the weather is good, it's best to wear sunglasses outdoors. Thank you. Dean reached out to take the sunglasses. The azure blue eyes are actually not good at all. They are sensitive and afraid of light. Just like this distraction. The car jolted and ran over something. Dean quickly looked at the rearview mirror, and then his pupils shrank. It turned out to be a bloody arm. What happened? Neil also felt the vibration of the car just now, but she didn't think much about it. After all, there is no shortage of small stones on the roads in Las Vegas. I ran over a small thing. I'll go take a look. You wait for me in the car. Dean took out a pistol from his waist, turned on the safety, and first glanced around the road. After making sure that no one was ambushing on the roadside, he walked towards the severed hand. The blood and flesh marks on this arm are very fresh. From experience, it is estimated that it has been less than half an hour since the living person left. The main injury is that the joints were torn. As for the bloody surface, you have to ask the passing cars. Dean got out of the car, not because of curiosity, but because he suspected that the owner of this arm belonged to the off-road vehicle convoy that was ambushed earlier. But this place is not close to the previous battlefield. It can't be bombed here. Dean walked outside the road, took off his sunglasses, and carefully looked at the marks around him. The wind and sand swept here. The general marks disappeared quickly. But if you look closely, you can still see some crushed yellow weeds. Dean walked closer and took a look. Sure enough, around the weeds, he found tire tracks of an off-road vehicle and shells buried in the wind and sand. He swept around, and the dust flew. Chunks of minced meat, bloodstains, and a shell as big as Dean's middle finger appeared in front of him. I guessed wrong before. It's not an ambush at all, but a chase. The unknown forces are the pursuers, and the group of black people driving the off-road vehicle are the ones who are running away. The place covered by the missiles is not the first battle scene at all. Dean suspected that the appearance of the missiles was to attract the attention of the investigators. Drag it for 2 days. The Gobi rain will clear all traces. Forget it, I can't afford to offend the forces that can play with missiles. It doesn't matter if I don't earn this experience point. Dean was about to return to the car, but his feet clattered and he almost tripped. He looked down. Wow! The owner of the arm fell at his feet. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 look. Maybe this piece of land is relatively low-lying, covered by wind and sand. He really didn't notice it before. Dean noticed that the blood on the surface of the broken body gathered and condensed into a special pattern. He squatted down and saw that it was the kind of branding tattoo that caused the blood to flow out and condense here. This pattern looks so familiar. After thinking for a moment, Dean was sure that he had seen this pattern, but he couldn't remember where he saw it for a while. Neil was still waiting in the car, and the funeral of Mass couldn't be delayed. Dean simply took out his mobile phone, took a photo and sent it to Harry, and left a message asking him what kind of tattoo culture this was. After simply cleaning up the surrounding traces, he returned to the car. Neil was not stupid. She saw the bloodstains on the road. But seeing that Dean had no intention of explaining, she moved her lips twice, and finally chose to shut up. Mom said that men don't like women who talk too much. Mass's funeral was full of twists and turns. Because of the sudden incident, the convoy lost contact with many people on the way. When Neil and Dean arrived at the cemetery, the funeral company had prepared everything, but there were only a dozen people who came to pay their respects. Fortunately, the priest was still there. After a eulogy, Mass's coffin was placed in the deep pit. Everyone lined up to present flowers. Neil, who had already been somewhat relieved, couldn't help but shed tears again under the atmosphere. This was a good thing for Dean. A woman is most likely to be conquered when she is in a state of emotional ups and downs. The funeral is over. Neil is already nestled in his arms. Ding-ling-ling morning. Dean was awakened by the ringing of the phone. He pulled his arm out of the soft flesh and answered the phone. Harry, you ruined my perfect morning. Dean, where did you get that pattern? Harry was excited. That's the damn Tulane gang logo. Their people killed my good friend. What pattern? It's the damn pattern you sent me. This is a gang selling powder in Las Vegas. Dean, where are you now? Las Vegas. Okay, man, calm down. I'll be back in the afternoon. Hang up the phone. Dean's eyes were blank. Gang, he finally remembered where he had seen this pattern. Okay, a new case will start tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Thanks to 348,535 QDCN book friend for the reward of 500 book coins. To be honest, I was a little panicked when I typed this name. What if it is unhealthy? Would I be considered spreading unhealthy information? Chapter 44: A new murder case. The tattoo culture in America is very interesting. For example, spider webs are a type of prison tattoo, which means that the person has been in prison for a long time. Tear moles mean that the person has killed someone, or mourns a deceased relative or friend. In addition, tattoos are also a type of regional gang culture. This will make gang members feel inheritance and identity, and it is also used to show off and intimidate peers, forming a class hierarchy. When Harry said that the tattoo photo belonged to Las Vegas, it was a symbol of touring gang members. Dean finally remembered it. He had indeed seen that tattoo in Las Vegas. Remember Santoni? This man was a former forensic doctor in the Los Angeles Forensic Department. After making a fake autopsy report for Dean's father, he resigned and disappeared, and was finally discovered by Mass. Mass also died accidentally when he went to see Santoni. After Dean knew what happened, he sneaked into Santoni's house for safety reasons, but unexpectedly found that someone had entered in advance. He hid in the dark and finally saw two people coming out, and he specially remembered the characteristics of the two. Those two people had touring gang tattoos on their bodies. Afterwards, because Dean accidentally found a heavy artillery in Santoni's garage, he pretended to be a thief and quietly called the police to muddy the water there. And in order to avoid exposing his existence, Dean did not find anyone to investigate the identities of the two people. Unexpectedly, after going around in circles, he met the touring gang again. Could it be because of the heavy artillery that the forces behind Santoni found out that the two touring gang members had entered Santoni's residence before the incident, and suspected that they were the ones who reported it, so killed all the touring gang members? Dean thought of the missiles he saw that day, and felt that his guess seemed very reliable. The heavy artillery was already made. It's normal to play with missiles. It's so f-king brutal. I feel that even if I have a panel, I can't beat this unknown force. Dean muttered in his heart. Just when he was in a daze, Neil's little head popped out from the quilt and pressed against Dean's chest. You look worried? Yes. Dean looked helpless. Something happened in Los Angeles. I have to get back as soon as possible. So you're leaving me? Neil looked at Dean with big eyes, looking obedient and clingy, but in fact, the little hand under the quilt had already climbed up the high pole. This is not a weak woman who can't even tie a chicken. Dean had tried it yesterday. It was foreseeable. If he answered carelessly, he would have to bear the pain of losing his penis. Facing a fatal threat, Dean remained calm in the face of danger, and his flexible fingers were the first to arrive, turning mountains and seas, easily removing Neil's strength, causing her to whimper like a defeated dog. The threat was lifted. Dean speeded up his attack and soothed her. This matter is related to Mass's death. As his good brother, I have been thinking about revenge for him. Even if this will make me be pierced through the heart by the sharp arrow of missing you again and again, I must leave. Neil's eyes were misty. After being bullied, Neil finally did not decide to follow Dean to Los Angeles now. Even if it was the first time for Dean, it was still the same. She was a woman with her own ideas. Dean did not force it. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Dean drove his more shabby second-hand car back to the Los Angeles Police Detective Bureau. The office of the 4th Squadron was as empty as usual. Daisy, where are the guys? Dean glanced around and walked to Daisy, who was wearing a facial mask and watching a talk show. Hey, Dean, I'm glad to see that you're okay. Daisy stood up in surprise. There was a murder case. It seems to be Harry's friend. They are all out investigating. Can you tell me briefly? Harry was not in the police station now, so Dean had to ask Daisy. She was a clerk in the 4th Squadron. She was the first person to know about all the murders that the 4th Squadron had handled. There are very few clues. Daisy picked up a document from her desk, flipped through it, and said, the deceased is called Annan, a Chinese, who makes a living by forging false certificates, but he is not very courageous and mainly works for some illegal workers. He was found dead in the parking lot early this morning. Harry is his friend and knows that Annan has a habit of trading in the parking lot every time he receives an order. We finally locked these two people through the surveillance in the parking lot. Daisy handed over 2 blurry photos. Dean took them and saw that both of them were black. His face could not be seen clearly. Only some traces of tattoos could be seen through the exposed skin. No mistake, a poem, a post, a content, a book, a forum. However, the physical characteristics of these two people are very obvious. Compared with the surrounding cars, one is as tall as a black bear, at least nearly 2 meters. The other is much thinner, standing in front of his companions, like an underage child. The physical characteristics of these two people are exactly the same as those of the two people Dean saw at the beginning. Interesting, these two people actually ran from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. I wonder if it was because of this reason that the unfortunate touring gang was destroyed by the unknown force. Dean fell into deep thought. Although the place where the Las Vegas highway was bombarded by missiles is a remote place, A missile attack in the city is not a trivial matter. Until a day after the incident, there was no relevant report in the Las Vegas media, whether it was TV or newspapers. Only the people who experienced it on the internet told this story. But without pictures and without truth, it can't make any waves at all. Obviously, there is an invisible big hand that suppressed this matter. Thinking of the heavy artillery in the previous war that appeared in the residential area of Las Vegas, I am afraid that the senior military officials of the United States are involved. Dean didn't dare to continue to explore. It will kill people. Thinking of this, Dean immediately decided to conceal the fact that he knew the appearance of the two touring gang members. The unknown force that bombarded the touring gang will sooner or later find these two people. The forensic Dr. Santoni who forged the truth of Dean's father's death is their man. Who can guarantee that there are no people from that unknown force in the current detective bureau? As long as Dean gets involved, no matter what excuse he makes, he will risk getting burned in the end. His relationship with Harry's not that good yet. He calmed down. Dean put down the photo. Daisy, I'm going to find Harry to see if I can help. Okay, I'll be left alone here again. Daisy sat down again reluctantly. You can call Harry directly. If he doesn't answer, call Lawrence. They are together. Dean nodded and was about to leave. Suddenly, ding-ling-ling. The landline on Daisy's desk rang. Daisy quickly grabbed Dean. I'm afraid you can't leave, Dean. This landline is connected to the reporting center. Once it rings, it means that another murder has occurred. Chapter 45. This must be a misunderstanding. Daisy picked up the phone and wrote down the information on a piece of paper beside her while asking. After a moment, she looked at Dean. There is a suspected murder in Villa 76, Tamida District. Dean, the neighborhood patrol has already gone there. Now you need to go and understand the situation first. If it is really a murder, you can call Lawrence and the forensic department. Although Dean is a rookie who has just joined the 4th Squadron, he has performed very well in the previous 2 cases, which makes Daisy trust him. Tamida District, a middle to high-end community. Dean rubbed his waist. Okay, I'll go there now. I just drove 5 hours back from Las Vegas. Get used to it slowly, rookie. Daisy took off the mask on her face and picked up a French fry. The cracking of the serial stab murder case has made the superiors very satisfied with our squadron. In the future, our 4th Squadron will be responsible for more and more cases. Dean shrugged. It sounds good. The more cases, the more experience points you can get. Leave the detective bureau. Dean drove to number 76, Themita Street block alone. This place is more upscale than the block where Dean's mother lives. There are single-family villas here, and most of the residents are elite white-collar workers in some companies, belonging to the good middle class. When Dean arrived, several strong male nurses had already carried a slovenly man out of the house and were sending him to the ambulance. What's going on, guys? Dean stepped forward and took out his detective's license. A bold patrolman glanced at Dean's detective ID and stepped forward and said, Detective Dean, this must be a misunderstanding. A child accidentally kicked the ball into this yard. When he came to pick up the ball, he saw a person lying in the living room of the villa through the window. There was a lot of blood on the ground, so he called the police. According to our inquiries to the surrounding neighbors, this man is a helper hired by the owner's family. The owner's family went out to travel. The helper has lived here for more than a month and his identity is not a problem. This unlucky guy must have been drunk and accidentally hit his head and fainted. Drunk. Dean stopped a few male nurses, stepped forward to check the man's injuries, and sniffed gently. In addition to the strong smell of alcohol, there was also a faint smell of marijuana. This is a drug addict. He must have been high, and with the effect of alcohol, he couldn't control his body and broke his head. Send this unlucky guy to the hospital. I hope he won't cry when he sees the bill when he wakes up. Dean stepped aside. There's a proverb in this country, it is better to run a hospital than to be a drug lord. This is not a joke. Several male nurses laughed and carried the injured man to the car. The patrolmen around were also ready to leave. It was a wasted trip. Dean took out his mobile phone and was about to ask where Harry was. Suddenly he glanced at the doghouse in the corner of the yard and stopped the patrolman who wanted to leave. Guys, can you help me get a shovel? FK. The bald patrolman helplessly directed his companions. Adi, go and help find a shovel. It is probably impossible for us to get off work early today. This is a good thing. Your chance to make a contribution has come. Dean stretched out his hand to the bald man. Formally introduce yourself, Senior Officer Hawk, I am Dean from the 4th Squadron of the Robbery and Murder Division. Ordinary patrolmen in Los Angeles, LAPD, need to wear police uniforms when they are working. They wear the badge of the Los Angeles Police Department on their left chest, a name tag on their right chest, and a police rank on their collar. So Dean directly called out Hawk's name and rank. Hawk was not very interested in Dean's show of goodwill. He slapped Dean's face perfunctorily. Hey, man, compared to trusting you to lead us to do meritorious service, I would rather you buy us a drink afterwards. Hawk had seen Dean's detective ID. This was just a rookie with a rank of level 3 police officer. This rank meant that Dean had been in the detective bureau for less than half a year. And he was a senior police officer. In the Los Angeles Patrol, senior police officer must have 10 years of police experience, which is equivalent to a first-level police officer in the detective bureau, and it is also the highest rank that most patrol officers can achieve in their lifetime. Hawk's rank is 2 levels higher than Dean's. He naturally spoke tough in front of Dean. Drinking is of course no problem. Dean retracted his palm, but I guess in the end you will be willing to treat me. After hearing what Dean said, Hawk became interested. It depends on your performance, rookie. As he spoke, the patrolman who was called by Hawk to get a shovel ran over from the cabin next to the villa. I didn't find the shovel, but I found a spoon from China in the tool shed. Dean was silent when he saw the iron shovel used for cooking in front of him. What, a spoon from China? He shrugged and took the shovel. Okay, this thing works too. Dean took the shovel and led a few curious patrolmen to the soil in front of the doghouse and began to dig. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum. This piece of turf looks very new, but it was laid very carelessly, exposing the soil underneath. Do you suspect something is hidden underneath? Hawk watched Dean's movements with interest. Yes, and it should be a body. Dean pointed to the area around the turf and explained, see this piece of soil? It's a lot sunken than the surrounding area, and there is a clear difference in the color depth of the soil fault. This means that there is flesh and blood rotting underneath. The gases produced by the rotting pushed up the soil under the grass, and after the gas dissipated, the place sank. Are you saying there's a person buried underneath? Hawk and others immediately became alert, and looked at Dean with a little more attention. People with abilities will naturally win respect. Dean shook his head and said, it's not a human. I guess it's a small dog, and it was buried very shallowly, otherwise there wouldn't be such obvious traces. As the spatula dug up the shallow soil, a bone with a foul smell emerged from under the soil. Hawk and the others covered their noses, frowned and stepped back. Dean followed the bone expressionlessly, cleaning the surrounding soil bit by bit, and finally dug the entire dog corpse out of the ground. The dog corpse was already in a semi-rotten state, with only some dark fur sticking to the bones and flesh. As for the internal organs, they had long since rotted into liquid and seeped into the soil below. After a simple inspection, Dean stood up and stepped back a few steps, exhaling the breath he had been holding. This dog was killed by a heavy blow to the head. The time of death has been more than a month. The specific time needs to be determined by the forensics department. The owner of the household and his family have not returned from their trip, and the time when the helper came here is almost the same as the time when the dog died. This is interesting. Dean looked at Hawk and the others. The owner of this house is probably not traveling, but missing. Guys, arrange someone to watch over the helper, and call the forensics department for me. I need to go into the house to investigate the situation now. Hawk was very obedient this time. After he arranged for several companions to do things, he walked up to Dean with admiration on his face. Detective Dean, it seems I owe you a lesson. You performed very well. Just call me Dean. Dean smiled, took out the usual gloves, foot covers and other items, and walked towards the gate of the villa. He had never studied traceology, nor did he know much forensic knowledge, but he had handled many corpses. This is also considered as a long illness makes a good doctor. There were many crimes. After becoming a good man, Dean found that he was very suitable for his current identity as a detective. Good morning, brothers. This case is quite interesting. If you can guess who the murderer is, I'll lose. Ahem, if you know the plot, please keep it confidential to maintain the anticipation of the plot, please. Because this case is the prototype of the case found by the dog thief from the outside world, it is even more magical than the adapted plot. By the way, there will be 3 updates today. Please follow me and vote. If you have any rewards, please give them to me. 1 or 2 cents is not too little, and $1 or $2 is not too much. Chapter 46. This is the slaughterhouse. After entering the villa, Dean immediately found something unusual. Although the interior of the villa was not empty, there was not a single valuable piece of furniture or appliance in sight. This was obviously abnormal in a single-family villa worth more than $2 million. After passing through the living room, Dean came to the place where the helper fell. This was a bar. There were still fresh bloodstains on the corner of the bar. The helper should have been in this position at the time. He did not stabilize his body, and then his head hit the corner of the bar, causing injuries and fainting. Dean squatted down and looked carefully. On the side of the bar near the ground, there were bloodstains spurting upwards. The bloodstains were bright red and fresh. They should have been thrown up when the helper fell. They were normal traces. Suddenly, Dean's vision was fixed on a corner farther away from the bar. There were also a few inconspicuous drops of blood there. The shape of the blood drops was downward like water drops, and they were black and red solidified. This mark has been there for some time. It was definitely not left by the helper. Combined with the previous findings, at this time, Dean already had a premonition. This is another murder case. However, a single trace may be left by the owner's family in the past, and it cannot be concluded that a murder has occurred here. Dean stood up and carefully searched around. Soon, he found similar coagulated bloodstains on the fireplace and walls of the living room, and even on the ceiling, there were blood spots thrown up. The area involved was so wide that it covered most of the villa. This is no longer an accidental injury, which can be explained clearly. Dean concluded that there must have been a very tragic fight here, which led to such a wide distribution of bloodstains. It seems that there is work to be done again. Dean took out his mobile phone and called Lawrence. "Dean, are you back?" Lawrence's surroundings sounded a little noisy, and there were also hawking sounds, as if he was in a shopping mall. "Yes, I'm back." Dean didn't explain too much. "If it's convenient, come to Villa number 76 in the Tamida block. A murder should have occurred here." "Okay, I'll talk to Harry." Hang up the phone. Dean wandered around the living room. The environment here looked a bit dirty. When the helper lived here, he obviously didn't do a good job of cleaning. In some open areas, the marks left by dust clearly showed that furniture, appliances and other items were placed here not long ago. When he walked to the window, Dean stopped. The marks on the 2 pieces of glass in the middle looked much cleaner than the surrounding glass. Combined with the sanitary conditions in the house, Dean guessed that the 2 pieces of glass were not cleaner because they were wiped, but were replaced recently. In the concave part of the window facing the house, some particularly small glass fragments can be seen, which means that the glass was broken from the outside. Keeping these in mind, Dean prepared to go upstairs to take a look. Just then, bald Patrolman Hawk came to the door with a little gloating on his face. "Dean, the people from the forensic department are here, but they don't look very happy, haha. Because a dead dog was found, the people from the forensic department were called over, and everyone would be angry." Dean didn't care and walked out of the house. There were not many people from the forensic department, only 3 men and 1 woman. He knew one of them, Holtz, Bill's assistant. It seemed that he had started to do field work. Dean wanted to say hello to Holtz, but the middle-aged man in front of Holtz stopped him first and said in a bad tone, "Dude, don't tell me that you called us here just because a dead dog was found in the yard. Do you think we are your subordinates? Calm down." Holtz recognized Dean and turned pale with fright. He quickly stopped his companions. "This is Dean. Dean. X3. The 3 companions of Holtz exclaimed in unison. The middle-aged man who stopped in front of Dean was even more frightened and turned pale. He couldn't speak clearly. "Sorry, Detective Dean, I was a little extreme just now. I mean, just tell us what you need us to do." Dean was confused by the reactions of these people. But it's a good thing that the toolman can cooperate with him. He nodded and smiled kindly. "I just conducted a preliminary survey in the house and found that there are many bloodstains that have not been cleaned up, so I want you to conduct further inspections. It would be better if you can determine the time and distribution range." "No problem, no problem." The 4 people returned to the car obediently, took out various instruments, and walked into the lobby of the villa. Hawk, who was standing aside, looked at Dean suspiciously. "I have never seen these people so polite and obedient. Man, did you use witchcraft? They may respect my character. After all, I am a famous 5-star citizen of Los Angeles. Dean subconsciously touched the pistol on his waist while speaking. Every 11.43mm bullet in it is a strong guarantee of his good character. What kind of person is he? Hawk's eyes became more suspicious. Sorry, I think I may need to check my nose, because I only smell the smell of bad guys from you. Get lost. Dean gave Hawk a middle finger. Hawk, can you help me get the information of the whole family of the owner of Villa number 76? It would be even better if we could know how they are related to each other. No problem, I look forward to your sharing of the credit with us. Hawk picked up the call machine and prepared to call 2 more colleagues to help. It feels good to assign people this way. Dean walked into the room and found that Holtz and his group were pouring some powder into a plastic bucket. The outside of the plastic bucket was also equipped with a strap and a sprayer, a hydraulic rod, and it looked like a simple pesticide sprayer. Holtz, are you going to spray pesticides? Dean came over and prepared to learn. Holtz was startled by Dean, who suddenly appeared behind him, and stuttered, Dean, this is Lumire reagent. So this is Lumire reagent. Dean became more curious. This thing. He had heard of it, but it was the first time he saw it in person. Bloodstains are actually a type of mark that is difficult to completely remove. This is because flushing and wiping seem to remove the bloodstains, but the blood-red globules that are difficult to see with the naked eye still remain in the original place. Using special reagents, you can react with those blood-red globules that are difficult to see with the naked eye to form new bloodstains. Lumire reagent is such a reagent. When this thing is sprayed on the bloodstains, it will emit a faint blue light in a dim environment. Many crime dramas will have this scene to show professionalism. Debugging completed. Holtz put on special protective clothing, carried the prepared reagent barrel, and began to spray it everywhere in the villa. This thing is slightly corrosive. The rest of the people had to draw the curtain and go out to wait. A moment. Holtz's exclamation came from the house, FK, this is a slaughterhouse. The dog thief finished his meal and there was still one chapter. It was about 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Thank you for the reward from Master Jiu. Thank you. Chapter 47. Behind the sacredness, there are lies and filth. Hearing Holtz's exclamation inside, everyone was mentally prepared. They went in again. They were still shocked by the scene in front of them. What they saw was a fluorescent blue light. Everyone's exposed skin was reflected in a dark blue color, deep and slightly weird. What happened here? The only female forensic examiner shrank her throat. Did the murderer directly use the blood as clean water to mop the floor? This is a rare scene. Even these knowledgeable forensics are in a daze at this moment. Dean didn't feel anything. After scanning the circle, he showed a puzzled expression. These traces seem to be caused by the mop, but if so, what is the other party's purpose? Although the traces left by blood are difficult to clean completely, wouldn't it be more troublesome to clean up if the blood is everywhere? The murderer is very cunning and smart. Holtz's expression was not very good. He took out a laser pointer from his pocket and tapped the area with the most intense blue light on the ground. He looked at Dean and said, there is a clear sense of overlapping and misalignment in these locations. One of them should be the place where the victim bled profusely or even died. In order to cover it up, the murderer deliberately mopped the surrounding areas many times. What's the point of this? Dean was even more confused. He had never seen such a professional analysis before, so he didn't understand the point of Holtz's words. This involves bloodstain analysis. Holtz pointed to the female forensic examiner who was frowning and thinking, Mellon is a professional bloodstain analysis expert in our forensic department. Detective Dean, I think you may need your help. The female forensic examiner heard Holtz calling her name, came back to her senses, and explained to Dean, forensic doctors have a catchphrase, called the corpse can speak. In fact, it is not only the corpse. Every drop of blood at the crime scene has its own story. Through the blood drop splashing pattern, trajectory, chemical analysis and other means, we can infer the date of the crime, the murder weapon, the trajectory and movement of the people involved, the murderer's left-handedness, the type of injury to the victim, and even whether the wound was fatal at the time. But, Mellon frowned again, this place has been covered with a lot of blood traces. It is difficult for us to get useful information through bloodstain analysis. A good cook cannot cook without rice. The bloodstains are all covered, and there is no point in doing a fart analysis. At most, we can only identify the time and type of the blood and whether there is any residual genetic information. Dean finally understood. So what you mean is that the murderer knows what the forensic department might do? Yes. Mellon nodded. For example, in this case, we can't lock the victim's last location through blood traces, and we can't infer the murderer's movement trajectory, body shape, height, etc. This situation is actually more cunning than directly using reagents to clean up the blood residue. Even if there are reagents, it may not be possible to completely remove all blood residues. But it is difficult to find black spots left before blackening on a piece of paper that is completely black. This is what the murderer thinks. Well, the murderer at least left us a dead dog. Dean was ready to let them do something to help. Guys, please collect this blood from various locations and analyze the composition of it, the surrounding walls, fireplaces, ceilings and other places. Wait. Mellon interrupted Dean. You mean there are blood stains on the ceiling, walls, and furnace walls? Yes. Dean pointed to the top of his head, but it's not very obvious. Mellon came to the place where Dean pointed. After taking a few glances, she shook her head in disappointment. There are too few reference tracks, and nothing can be analyzed. If there are more reference traces in a few directions, it would be almost right. Analysis requires data as a reference. But there are too few data left at the scene. After collecting some samples, the forensics department left with a rotten dead dog. Lawrence hasn't come yet. Bald Patrolman Hawk hasn't come back after leaving. Dean walked to the corner of the fireplace out of boredom. On the wall here, there are more than a dozen photo frames hanging in the shape of a heart. At first glance, people think this is a loving family of four. After Dean looked at their photo carefully, a strange smile appeared on his face. He found something very interesting. In the photo, a boy and a girl who should be siblings, holding hands, looking at the camera with bright smiles on their faces. This scene seems to be fine on the surface. But combined with the eyes of the two parents, it is interesting. Behind the siblings, the man's eyes focused on his son's head, and the mother's eyes, like the man, looked at the back of her daughter's head. Is it that the father doesn't like his son and the mother doesn't like her daughter? Dean squatted down and scanned the traces around the photo frame. Compared with the other photos, this photo is too inconsistent. This time, he found something strange. In order to keep this kind of photo frame for a long time, special materials are usually used. After the air inside is sucked out, all the gaps are sealed with substances such as beeswax. No mistakes, one post, one content, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one bar. But the gap at the bottom of the family photo frame in front of him has lost its sealing function. Someone opened this photo frame and replaced the photo inside. Dean stretched out his finger, placed it on the bottom of the photo frame, and gently pulled it. The photo originally fixed inside, like pulling paper, slid down and fell into Dean's palm. Pick up the photo. Dean noticed that on the back of the photo, there was a sentence written in blood, "Behind the sacred, there are lies and filth." This sentence, coupled with a strange photo, seems to have some kind of hint. And if you look at these photos closely, you can easily find that this photo is different from the others around it, as if it is deliberately reminding others that there is something wrong here. Is this solving a case or solving a puzzle? Dean felt that the murderer was sick. He stuffed the photo back into the frame, and then tore it off. Put away the frame. Dean came to the guest room of the helper. As soon as he opened the door, a strange smell came over. The guest room is not small, a bit like a single apartment, with a separate bathroom and a TV hanging on the wall. Under the TV, there is a cabinet with a VCD with a flashing light on it, and a pile of discs on the VCD. In addition, there are garbage such as toilet paper, smelly socks, beer cans, etc. Dean walked to the VCD, picked up the discs and looked at them carefully. Most of them were romance movies, a few were Western cowboy movies, and at the bottom, he also found a love action movie. Harry is here, he will definitely like this CD. Dean smiled and returned to the villa hall without finding anything. Just then, Hawk, who had left, finally came back. He panted and handed 2 file bags to Dean. The one above is the basic information of the household owner's family, and the other one is the identity information of the helper. You will never guess what his identity was before. Thanks to the Buck Friend National Football Three Brothers for the 2,000 book coins reward. Thank you, boss. Ahem. The speed of the old thief laying eggs is a bit slow. Mainly a reader knows which case the old thief is writing about. Although he didn't guess my second creation, he wrote the original case in the comment area. This allows me to write normally, and I won't have any expectations. I had to rewrite this chapter. In addition, if possible, please don't spoil it, please. It's a waste of hair to change the case outline. Okay. Good night, brothers. Chapter 48 Personnel Information, Visits. Is it hard to guess? Dean came outside the villa and took off his gloves and foot covers. You got the information so quickly, which means that guy has a criminal record. You are really smart. Hawk lost his energy. The guy didn't have anything to prove his identity. I compared his photos and found his information in the database. The information is all here. After reading it, you will definitely think that this guy is related to the case here. Dean became interested. He took the helper's information and opened it to read it. According to the information, the helper's name is Marcus, from Arkansas, 21 years old, a drug addict, came to Los Angeles to wonder a year ago, has no normal job, has 3 theft records and 1 record of drug trafficking. 2 months ago, Marcus had just been released from prison. Dean looked through several criminal records of Marcus and felt that what Hawk said made sense. Drug addict, multiple thefts, plus the disappearance of the owner's family, and the disappearance of furniture and appliances in the villa. Normal people would think that Marcus has a problem. However, all of these need more evidence to prove. Dean put down Marcus's information and opened the information of the owner's family. On the surface, the United States pays more attention to the privacy of citizens. Even the police station finds it difficult to get particularly complete information. Hawk got some simple registration information. The information shows, the owner of this villa is Sean Gray, a 39-year-old from Los Angeles, of German descent, a second-generation immigrant, and a financial director of a large company with an annual salary of over $500,000. Sean's wife is called Mary, a very popular name, from Arkansas, 38 years old, a housewife, and has been helping out at a Christian church on a voluntary basis for a long time. She is a devout believer. Sean and Mary have 2 children. Their son Bert, 19 years old, failed to get into college and dropped out. Their daughter Marina, 15 years old, also dropped out of school half a year ago. After reading the information, Dean fell into deep thought. The tuition fees for colleges in the United States are not cheap. So it is not uncommon for children from ordinary families to choose to drop out of school. But Sean's family is considered to be well off. These families are not rich, but they are defined as middle class, and they understand the importance of educating their offspring. They are willing to spend a lot of money on their children's education, just to let their offspring maintain their current class. The situation of Sheen's family is a bit abnormal. Thinking of the strange photo in his hand, Dean realized that there might be secrets between Sheen's family members that are not worth telling to outsiders. Bang! A huge collision interrupted Dean's thoughts. Everyone looked over. They saw a shabby truck riding on Dean's equally shabby second-hand car FK. With angry curses, a white man with a face full of flesh, who looked like a bad guy, kicked open the car door and jumped down from it. The person who came was Lawrence. Lawrence saw that all the patrolmen around him were looking at him. One of them with a childish face put his hands on his waist and spread his hands awkwardly. Guys, I just drove a little faster. Dean's mouth twitched. Hawk looked at Dean with a strange expression. Dean, don't tell me that your partner is Lawrence. Yes, is he famous? Then you're happy. The strangeness in Hawk's eyes turned into pity. This guy once set a record in the police detective bureau. More than 365 complaints were received in a year. If it weren't for his good ability, Lawrence would have been fired long ago. But I heard that he caused another big incident later, which almost caused the captain of the 1st Squadron to step down. I didn't expect him to still stay in the police detective bureau. Dean. Captain Mon took in Lawrence, and he was indeed an ambitious man. On the other side, Lawrence saw Dean standing outside the villa. He jumped out of the car in a somewhat embarrassed manner and ran towards Dean. Hawk's face changed, and he hurriedly said, Dean, I'll go drink with you next time. I'm leaving first. After that, he left quickly. Dean, I'm glad you're back. Lawrence opened his arms and wanted to give Dean a bear hug. Dean pushed him away. Thank you for thinking of me so much, but I hope you can call the insurance company so that I can buy another used car. That's your car. Lawrence widened his eyes and looked embarrassed. I will handle it. Now let's talk about the case. Okay. Dean shrugged. The reason is, the current clues are very vague. Now we can only be sure that someone died in this villa, but we don't know what happened here. After listening to Dean's detailed explanation, Lawrence asked back, what do you think? The helper Marcus is indeed a suspect, but he is not awake yet. The most important thing for us now is to find out the situation of the Sheen family. Dean expressed his thoughts. Yes, this is our focus. Lawrence nodded approvingly. Investigation of the scene, interpersonal relationships, and visits to the surrounding areas are the three basic ideas for solving the case. I will go in and investigate again. Dean, you go visit the neighbors around. Okay. Dean nodded. The two acted separately. There are small single-family villas here, which are considered to be middle and high-end communities. Not only do they have independent gardens and fences, but telephone bells are often installed outside the gates. There are 4 villas around. 2 of them are not at home. One is at home, but he doesn't care about Dean at all. Fortunately, when he came to the last house, an old woman who looked quite old came to the iron gate in an electric wheelchair. Child, is there anything? Hello, Mom, I want to ask. The old woman is very talkative. And because it is inconvenient to go out and can only stroll in the community, she knows a little about every household. After understanding, the Sheen family, except Mrs. Gray, rarely contacted the neighbors around them, and Mr. Sheen's son Bert often interacted with some dubious people. The father and son even fought in public because of this. As for Sean's daughter Marina, the old lady was particularly impressed. Their family moved here 9 years ago. Marina was only 6 years old at that time. She was very cute and polite. But Marina may have grown up later and no longer like to go out to play. She usually keeps her head down and is taciturn. Dean asked about the helpers again. These were similar to what Hawk had said before. The helpers were indeed hired by the Sean family themselves. But Dean got 2 additional important pieces of information. First, before the Sean family disappeared, Sean's wife had specifically told all the church members about the trip and made arrangements. Second, a few days ago, a truck with a hot dog logo stopped in front of Villa number 76 and took away a lot of furniture and appliances. If these furniture and appliances can be found, there may be additional gains. This visit was very rewarding. After thanking the woman, Dean turned around and reunited with Lawrence. Lawrence has finished investigating the scene. How is it? Any new discoveries? Dean nodded. According to the information provided by the neighbors, the Sheen family greeted people they knew before they disappeared, as if they had planned to disappear. Is it possible that the murderer forced them to do this? Dean shook his head and pointed to the villa. The obvious bloodstains in the villa hall have been destroyed, but those tiny blood drops have not. This shows that the other party knows the means of the forensic department, but time is urgent, so they can only deal with it simply and leave in a hurry. If the murderer forced them, then the other party should have enough time to deal with these, instead of making a good start but a bad end. There's still too little evidence found so far. Okay, man. Lawrence put his arm around Dean's shoulders. Once the results of the forensic department's appraisal come out tomorrow, we'll be able to figure it out. Now let's go have a drink. Sorry, I have an appointment. Dean had just finished speaking when a bright pink Porsche appeared on the street in front of them. The car window was lowered, revealing Laura's face that looked very sexy. Darling, long time no see. Long time no see. Laura, I can't wait to take your yoga class. Dean patted Lawrence on the shoulder, got in the Porsche, and drove away. Lawrence looked at the taillights of the car that disappeared in front of him, then looked at the pickup truck that he was still riding on Dean's car, and let out a long breath of envy. FK, I hate pretty boys. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. I just want my good brother to be happy. A night of tenderness. The next day, Dean drove the pink Porsche that Laura lent him, and brought the photo frame that he forgot to take out yesterday, to the detective station. As soon as he got off the car, he happened to meet Phoebe and Robert. Wow. Phoebe rushed over like a little fangirl, touching the pink sports car in front of her with envy. Dean, you actually have a girlish heart, maybe we can be good sisters. Dean. Robert also looked at Dean with a strange look in his eyes. My car was crashed by Lawrence, this is my friend's car. Dean explained with a dark face. Okay. Phoebe took her hand reluctantly and said seriously, by the way, Harry kept talking about you yesterday. How is the investigation of his friend's case going? There are some clues. After investigation, The suspect finally disappeared in the territory of the Dagger Gang. Harry went to negotiate with their people yesterday. Dagger Gang? Dean called Anthony yesterday. Because of the matter of the Lucifer Game organization, Anthony is now leading people to secretly investigate the Dagger Gang, but the progress does not seem to be very smooth. Say goodbye to Phoebe and the others. Dean brought the photo frame and came to the forensic department. Holtz had already arrived. When he saw Dean, he quickly put down the hot dog in his hand and took out a document report from the table beside him. Dean, this is a blood analysis. After identification, the blood found in villain number 76 was confirmed to be human blood, and most of it belonged to the same person. With such a large amount of bleeding, the person would definitely not survive. Now it is certain that a homicide occurred there. You can take this to create a file. Thank you. Dean took the file and took out the photo frame. By the way, this is a new clue I found after you left. A photo frame. Yes, but there is a line of blood behind the photo. Holtz accepted the photo frame. Dean took the report issued by the forensic department and came to the office of the 4th Squadron. In fact, the case of villain number 76 was a bit embarrassing. Because the cause of the case was just because a child discovered a suspected death, and it was later confirmed that it was just a misunderstanding. In terms of process, this call to the police is already over. As for the Sheen family, who are missing alive and dead, if the people don't report it, the officials won't investigate it. If no one takes the initiative to call the police, even the detective bureau would rather do less than more. Now with a report from the forensic department, Dean can use his official status to investigate and dispatch certain resources to really track down this missing case. Arriving at the office, Dean just sat down. Lawrence came over with a bad look. Dean, I remember you promised me that you would let Laura introduce me to a girlfriend. Of course. Dean took out a stack of photos from his pocket. Lawrence, you are my good friend. Good brother. Good master. How could I forget this? These are all beautiful single ladies. Which one do you like? I will help you arrange a date. He really didn't forget this. Lawrence looks ugly and fierce, but he is strong and healthy, and he is also a former professional wrestler and current detective of the homicide division. Therefore, there are many hungry rich women in their 40s and 50s at Laura's place who are very interested in Lawrence. If the pimping is successful, Dean can get a lot of money. Of course, he didn't do it for money. Dean swore. He simply wanted to help his good brother find his own happiness. Lawrence has a simple personality. Although the rich women are old, they are well maintained, and the photos are beautified to a certain extent. He looked at the tempting photos of these big PP old ladies in his hand, and almost drooled, and was very moved. Dean, except for my mother, no one has ever been so good to me. Dean didn't even raise his head and flipped through the report in his hand. On the back of the photo, there are their contact information. You can try to date these mature beauties. Come on, Lawrence. As a brother, I hope you can get out of singlehood soon. I won't let you down, Dean. Lawrence left with a touched face. After reading the report, Dean rubbed his forehead. After a blood test, the bloodstains found in villain number 76 belonged to 3 different people. 2 men and 1 woman. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 bar. Most of the bloodstains belonged to that woman. She is the only confirmed deceased at present. However, the forensic department collected the remaining hair of Sheen's family in the villa and found that no one could match the woman's DNA. The female deceased may be Sheen's wife, or an unknown person outside Sheen's family. The other 2 men. One is the helper Marcus, who is still lying in the hospital and has not woken up yet. The other man's DNA matches other genetic materials found in the villa. It can be basically concluded that the owner of the blood is either Sheen or Sheen's son Bert. Combined with the previous clues, Dean has several guesses about this somewhat vague case. Now he needs more evidence to prove his guesses. At this moment, a big black face suddenly appeared in front of Dean. Oh, thank God, Dean, I finally see you. Dean quickly stepped back. Harry, you look a little tired. How is the case going? Yes, I didn't sleep all night last night. Harry was full of frustration. The good news is that I got the photos of the 2 bastards. The bad news is that they went out to see through the Dagger Gang. Maybe they can arrive in Mexico tonight. Dean was relieved after hearing this. Those 2 people might attract unknown forces to destroy the touring gang. Now they have left Los Angeles, which is a good thing. By the way, Harry suddenly lowered his voice. Dean, where did you take the last photo? When I came back today, the buddy who helped me find someone suddenly warned me that the top leaders of the touring gang in Las Vegas were killed by gangsters in a negotiation, and their bodies were burned to charcoal. I went to attend a friend's funeral and saw a body on the road. I took a photo out of curiosity and asked you. You didn't witness the attack with your own eyes. It was just a coincidence. Dean said helplessly, and that group of people were not burned to charcoal, but were directly bombed into ashes by missiles. Harry, the water here is too deep. If you don't want to cause trouble, I suggest you give up continuing to track down those two people. Okay. Harry shrank his head. I have tried my best and I am worthy of the word friend. He is loyal, but not stupid. 9 o'clock. Deputy Captain Hunter arrived late and clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. Guys, gather in the conference room. I have a great announcement. Deputy Captain, what's the good news? Phoebe asked curiously. You'll know when you come in. But Hunter kept it a secret. Everyone entered the conference room. Dean also took the report and walked in. From today on, he will completely get rid of his rookie status and gather his own team little by little. Brothers, a happy weekend is here. Chapter 50 Leading the Case. Marcus wakes up. Meeting room. Captain Menyen, as usual, was a salary thief and had not come to work yet. Old Hunter sat in the main seat and coughed twice. Guys, because of our outstanding performance in the serial home invasion and stabbing murder case, the director approved a bonus of $100,000 for our squadron. It will be distributed according to your performance next month. Wow. Great, I just want to change to the latest model of Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Everyone cheered. The identity of a detective in the robbery and murder division sounds impressive. But without bonuses and overtime, their monthly after-tax income, depending on their police rank and position, is only $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Old Hunter looked at everyone with a smile, knocked on the table, and attracted everyone's attention again. This bonus is just the beginning. It represents the director's recognition of our 4th Squadron. We will take over more and more cases in the future. Hearing this news, although everyone was not as happy as before, they still smiled. With a case, you can work overtime openly and get overtime pay. This is also the bulk of the detective's income. For example, other squadrons. Even a rookie detective can earn more than $10,000 a month, not counting the extra bonus. From now on, the 4th Squadron is truly on the right track. After announcing the good news, Old Hunter looked at Dean. Dean, Daisy said that you handled a suspected death case indoors yesterday. It's his turn. Dean stood up and began to tell the details of the case. Old Hunter was a little disappointed after listening. So, this is a misunderstanding. Now the 4th Squadron urgently needs more achievements to consolidate its position. In the case of Harry's friend, the suspect has fled to Mexico and can only be left in the archives room to collect dust, with no hope of solving it. He was originally counting on Dean for this case. Yes. Dean nodded. However, I made a new discovery during the investigation. Finally, my colleagues in the forensic department confirmed that at least one murder case occurred in Villa 76 more than a month ago. Dean handed the report issued by Holtz to Old Hunter, then walked straight to the whiteboard and wrote down the names of Sheen's family of 4 and the helper Marcus. At this moment, the 6 people in the conference room all focused their eyes on Dean. When I was investigating the scene, I found blood spatters on the walls, the outside of the fireplace, and the ceiling of the villa hall, so I called the forensic department. After testing, the bloodstains in the house belonged to 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The bloodstains of one of them belonged to the helper Marcus. His bloodstains were the freshest and could be directly excluded. The bloodstains of the other man and woman were mixed. It can be confirmed that they were all left a month ago. The male blood sample was not much, and it matched the DNA of the hair on Sheen's clothes, so it should belong to Sheen or his son. The female blood loss was fatal, and her identity is unknown. She is suspected to be Sheen's wife, or an unknown third party. Old Hunter became excited. Dean, have you found any useful clues? Yes, but not much. Dean pointed to the report in Old Hunter's hand. I didn't have the legal authority to investigate at the time, but I got some information from Sheen's neighbors. Dean glanced at Daisy. He bribed Daisy over the phone yesterday and asked her to help get the basic information of Sheen's family and Marcus early in the morning. Daisy was very discerning and took out a few folders and distributed them to several people. After everyone finished reading the information, Dean tapped the whiteboard and began to narrate the case. Sheen's wife is a devout Christian. She doesn't have a job, but often goes to a Christian church to volunteer. She has a very good reputation in the area. More than a month ago, she told church members she knew that the whole family would go out for a trip for a while and would not be able to continue to help out at the church. After that, we completely lost contact with the Sheen family. At least I couldn't contact any of them by phone, Daisy added. Dean looked at Daisy approvingly and continued, according to the investigation, Marcus, the helper who caused the previous case, was the helper who was hired back before the Sheen family disappeared. Neighbors often saw him working in the yard in the past month. But a few days ago, a truck from a logistics company came and took away all the valuable furniture and appliances in the villa. Coincidentally, these furniture and appliances may be stained with blood that has not been cleaned up. If these furniture and appliances are found, the forensic department may be able to use bloodstain analysis to let us know what happened in the villa at that time. Dean looked at Daisy again. Daisy was overjoyed by Dean's praise. Seeing this, she immediately took out a piece of white paper and said, I came here early today. Based on the information provided by Dean on the phone yesterday, I found this logistics company and contacted them by phone. Dean didn't expect Daisy to be so efficient. What did they say? Those furniture and appliances were sent to second-hand grocery stores, and Marcus sold them. The logistics company gave me the names of several grocery stores. As long as there is an investigation order, we can get all the furniture and appliances back. Old Hunter looked at the two people who sang the same tune with a strange look. He had a strange feeling. Dean now seemed not to be a rookie who had been in the job for less than 2 weeks, but the Captain Mengen. This guy is leading the case. Thinking of this, Old Hunter, who had been a detective for more than 20 years and climbed to the current deputy captain based on his qualifications, felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed twice and interrupted the two of them. Dean, are there any other findings? Dean shook his head. Without an investigation warrant, there is very little that Lawrence and I can find. Marcus is still in a coma. We can only confirm that someone died in the villa recently, but we don't know what happened at that time. However, I found that the glass facing the yard in Sheen's villa had been smashed, and Sheen's dog was also hit on the head and killed around the time when Sheen's family disappeared. So I have a few guesses. Offstage. Lawrence was moved. He didn't expect that he was just a bystander yesterday, but Dean didn't forget to mention him. How kind. Lawrence touched the thick stack of beautiful mature women photos in his pocket again, and secretly swore in his heart that he would never let Dean down. Dean shuddered when he was looked at by Lawrence's affectionate eyes. He subconsciously turned around, avoiding Lawrence's gaze, and wrote 1, 2, 3 columns on the whiteboard. The first possibility is that I suspect the victim had an emotional relationship with Sheen. She turned her love into hatred and threatened the Sheen family through various means. In the end, in the conflict, the Sheen family accidentally killed the other party, and finally hurriedly dealt with the scene, called Marcus as a cover, and fled Los Angeles. Based on Sheen's high income and the family's premeditated departure, this guess is tenable. Everyone nodded. The second possibility is the same as the first guess. However, it was not an outsider who died, but Sheen's wife. And this outsider first threatened the Sheen family and made them fake the illusion of going on a trip before killing them. But if this is the case, the murderer should have enough time to clean up the traces at the scene instead of leaving so many splattered blood. And Marcus lived in his house before the Sheen family disappeared, but he is fine now. This is not normal. Marcus has not woken up yet. So this guess is pending. Everyone nodded again. Dean's words were reasonable and well-founded. Dean licked his dry lips. He rarely spoke so much, but in order to gradually establish his image and status in the 4th Squadron, he had to do so. What's the third guess? Harry asked impatiently. He listened to Dean's explanation of the case, feeling like he was listening to a story. Although the others did not speak, including Old Hunter, their eyes urged Dean to continue. Marcus. Dean tapped Marcus' name with a pen. This guy is a habitual offender, and he is an alcoholic and a long-term marijuana addict. This time he was injured because he was too high and hit his head on the bar. There is such a possibility. The Sheen family is indeed planning to travel and has even notified the people around them. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 book, 1 bar. As a result, before leaving, Marcus had a drug addiction attack and killed the Sheen family's dog. Sheen's wife came forward to argue and was also killed. Marcus, who woke up, mopped the blood on the ground in a panic, making a mess. After finally cleaning it up, he simply went all out and killed Sheen's entire family. This can also explain why the bloodstains in the villa hall were contaminated, but those places on the wall were not dealt with. Marcus is a homeless man with nothing. After waiting for a while in fear, he found that no one had noticed the matter. Finally, he became bolder and sold the furniture and appliances in the villa in exchange for drug money. Finally, Marcus got too high and hit his head, which caused misunderstandings among the little boy who found him, and finally led to our intervention. America, on the surface, attaches great importance to personal privacy. If the little boy hadn't called the police, no one would have noticed the disappearance of the Sheen family. Pa Lawrence took the lead in applauding. Dean, your analysis is very good. This Marcus is indeed a major suspect. Phoebe, Daisy, and Harry also applauded very hard and gave face. In a short time, Dean got along very well with them. This guy, in addition to picking up women, is also good at building relationships. Old Hunter was driven by the atmosphere and joined in. Only Robert, who was also a newcomer, was a little jealous, but after being glared at by Phoebe, he could only applaud obediently and cheer for Dean's reasoning. Dean enjoyed this feeling very much. But the key now is to collect more evidence. And he already felt that Old Hunter was a little jealous. Establishing an image is subtle. There is no rush. Dean clapped his hands. Guys, I have a feeling that this is another big case, but the current chain of evidence is missing a lot. Even if Marcus really killed the Sheen family, we can't convict him, so we must hurry up and take action now. The case is still in a fog. He plans to bring up the discovery of the photo frame after Holtz has a result. Old Hunter slowed down his slaps. Why does it feel a little wrong? Dean's words interrupted his thoughts. Deputy Captain, assign us a job. Yet, Old Hunter didn't think about what was wrong just now. He imitated Captain Mon's appearance and knocked on the table. Now we must find out where the Sheen family went, because in addition to the 3 possibilities mentioned by Dean, there is a 4th possibility. That is, the Sheen family did go on a trip, but they were killed on the way, and the female victim in the villa was someone else. This is actually nonsense. Old Hunter just habitually wants to show his presence as the deputy captain. But Robert, who had never had a chance to speak, became excited. Deputy Captain, the female victim's blood was mixed with Sheen's or Sheen's son's blood, which means that at least one of them was with a female victim at the time. How could they be killed while traveling? Finally, he found a chance to speak. Robert raised his doubts in a cute way. Old Hunter was stunned by the question. He stood there, opened and closed his mouth several times, and then he said with an ugly face, "Really?" Phoebe rolled her eyes at her apprentice Robert. This idiot. The atmosphere at the scene was a little awkward for a while. At this time, Dean's phone vibrated. It was an unfamiliar call. Dean glanced at the embarrassed Old Hunter and picked up the phone. Deputy Captain, I'll take a call. It may be related to the case. Old Hunter finally breathed a sigh of relief and felt that Dean was very pleasing to the eye at this moment. Hurry up and answer it, the meeting is about to end anyway. Dean nodded and answered the phone. Dean. Hearing this voice, Dean immediately thought of the big head of bald patrolman Hawk. Yes, this is Dean, you are Hawk. Yes, I don't have your phone, so I asked the archives for your number. There's good news, Marcus woke up and is in good condition. Great. Dean was delighted and said sincerely, "Thank you, Hawk, I will treat you to a meal when the case is over." Hawk could have called the 4th Squadron directly, but he took the trouble to contact him. He must be worried that he was a newcomer and that someone would take the credit. This person can be dealt with. Put down the phone. Dean smiled and looked at everyone. Guys, good news, the breakthrough point is here. Marcus is awake. Old Hunter took the opportunity to get up and arrange the work. Very good. Dean, you and Lawrence go to the hospital to interrogate him. Daisy, you go to check the vehicles of all the Sheen family members, and pay attention to their credit cards and related property. Phoebe, you and I will visit the acquaintances of the Sheen family. Harry, you go to investigate all the information about Marcus. As for you, Robert. In Robert's uneasy eyes, Old Hunter threw the list from the logistics company in Daisy's hand to him. You are responsible for finding all the furniture and appliances, and put them back to the original location of the villa with the people from the forensic department. Poor child, it seems that he has to be a porter. Old Hunter is worthy of being an old hand. All aspects have been considered. By the way, he also taught the rookie Robert a lesson: don't hit the boss in the face. The division of labor is completed. Everyone got busy. Dean also pulled Lawrence, the sturdy man, into the cute pink Porsche and drove to the hospital where Marcus was. He had a hunch. Marcus, the key figure, would bring a breakthrough and direction to the case. Thanks to Fengayu Kilfin for the reward, and thank you, boss. The dog thief is going to a banquet tonight. There is one more chapter to be added. I will talk about it when I come back. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.